The night has wrapped its heavy velvet wings around the world, bringing with it the quiet permission to let go. You are safe here, suspended in the gentle embrace of the present moment, yet ready to drift on the tides of time. Close your eyes and let the heaviness of the day evaporate like mist under the morning sun. Feel the surface beneath you, firm, supportive, and grounding, anchoring your body while your mind prepares to float free. Listen to the rhythm of your own breathing. It is the oldest sound in existence, a steady oceanic tide that flows in and out, washing away tension, washing away the noise, leaving only a vast, silent space within you. As you sink deeper into this comfort, imagine that the ceiling above you dissolves into a canopy of stars. These are not the dim stars of the modern city, but the brilliant diamond dust constellations of the ancient world. The same stars that look down upon emperors and philosophers, soldiers and poets. We're embarking on a journey tonight, a slow, mesmerizing voyage back to the eternal city. We're going to Rome, but not the Rome of maps and dates. We are travelling to the Rome of sensory memory, of sun-warmed marble, of incense drifting through cedar groves, and of the golden light that bathes the 7 hills. Let your imagination become a vessel, weightless and free. There is no rush to arrive, for the journey itself is the destination. Picture yourself floating on a stream of time, the currents carrying you gently backward, past the centuries, past the turning of the ages, until the noise of the modern world fades into a serene silence. The air around you changes. It becomes warmer, carrying the scent of pine, of rosemary growing wild on a hillside, and the faint, salty tang of the Tyrrhenian Sea in the distance. You have arrived at the threshold of history, ready to walk the cobblestones of a dream. Relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, let your hands rest open and soft. We are here now, at the dawn of the Empire, where the stones still whisper their secrets to those quiet enough to listen. Then we begin our journey not in the city of stone, but in the wild, untamed silence that came before it. Picture a wide, winding river churning with the rich brown earth of the Italian peninsula. This is the Tiber. Before the marble palaces rose, there was only this river and the marshy banks where reeds swayed in the wind. Visualize the legend that drifts through the mist of this river, the story of the twins, Romulus and Remus. Imagine a woven basket bobbing gently in the current, caught in the roots of a fig tree at the base of a wild hill. It is here, in the quiet shade of the Palatine, that the she-wolf descends. Picture her coat, distinct against the greenery, a symbol of the raw, protective power of nature. She does not bring fear, but salvation. In the dreamtime of Rome, this image is the seed of everything that follows. The wildness of the wolf and the innocence of the children, merging to create a people who would one day claim to be the sons of Mars. Feel the humidity of the riverbank, the sound of the water lapping against the mud, the sense of destiny hanging heavy in the air. It is a humble beginning, a moment of survival in the wilderness that would eventually blossom into the greatest civilization of the ancient world. The air here feels charged with potential, the stillness of the landscape hiding the thundering future of the legions and the emperors, all starting with 2 infants and the watchful eyes of the wolf in the shadows of the fig tree. From the muddy banks of the river, your spirit rises, floating upward like a bird catching a warm thermal current. As you ascend, the landscape reveals itself, not as a flat plain, but as a dramatic, undulating sea of earth. These are the 7 hills of Rome. Visualize them rising from the mist: the Palatine, the Aventine, the Capitoline, the Quirinal, the Viminal, the Esquiline, and the Caelian. They are the topographical spine of the city, standing like natural fortresses guarding the valley below. Imagine standing on the highest peak as the dawn breaks. The light spills over the horizon, painting the tops of these hills in hues of violet and gold, while the valleys between them remain dipped in cool blue shadow. The air up here is crisp and clean. You can feel the strategic importance of this place. To dwell on the hills is to be above the fray, to be closer to the gods. The Palatine, lush and green, calls to you, the future home of emperors, where the air will one day smell of expensive perfume and imported spices, but for now just feel the solidity of the earth beneath you. These hills are the enduring bones of the city, the silent witnesses that support the weight of history. Feel the connection between the land and the sky here, a vertical axis where the power of Rome was literally elevated above the rest of the world. It is a landscape of power, yes, but also of immense natural beauty, where the wind whispers through the ancient cypress trees that stand like sentinels on the slopes. Drifting down from the heights of the hills, we descend into the valley that lies between them. Here, the marshy ground has been drained, the wildness tamed, and in its place beats the heart of the empire. This is the Roman Forum. Imagine walking onto a vast plaza paved with smooth, sun-bleached travertine stones. The heat radiates gently up through the soles of your sandals, a comforting warmth that grounds you in the centre of the world. This space is the umbilicus urbis, the navel of the city. Everywhere you look, white marble gleams against the deep blue of the Italian sky. Visualize the Senate House, the Curia, with its tall bronze doors reflecting the sunlight. Hear the low rhythmic hum of 1,000 conversations. Politicians debating in Latin, merchants bargaining over silk and grain, the rustle of togas moving across the stone. But in our dream, the noise is distant and soothing, like the murmur of a stream. You're walking through the nerve centre of civilization. Picture the rostra, the great speaking platform adorned with the prows of captured ships, where voices ring out to shape the course of history. The air here tastes of dust and glory. It is a crowded, vibrant place, yet there is an order to it, a majestic symmetry in the columns and the architraves that tower above you. You're standing in the very room where the Western world is being written, surrounded by the ghosts of Cicero and Caesar, in a marketplace of ideas that will echo for eternity. As you run your hand along the side of a temple wall, you notice that not everything is made of white marble. Beneath the veneer of opulence lies the true secret of Rome's endurance, the grey, gritty texture of Roman concrete. Let your mind focus on this substance, the opus cementitium. It is not merely mud and stone, but a magical alchemy of volcanic ash, pozzolana, mined from the dark earth near Mount Vesuvius. Imagine the Roman engineers, masters of the material world, mixing this ash with lime and seawater. Watch as the mixture transforms. Unlike modern concrete, which withers over time, this ancient stone grows stronger as the years pass, the chemical reaction continuing for centuries, solidifying even underwater. Visualize the massive dome of the Pantheon, a testament to this liquid stone. Picture the unreinforced dome stretching out above you, a man-made cave that defies gravity, created from this humble volcanic dust. It feels cool to the touch, solid and unyielding. It creates a sense of permanent safety, a feeling that the shelter provided here will last until the end of time. This concrete is the muscle of the empire, the binding agent that holds the aqueducts and the harbours together against the erosion of the elements. It is a meditation on strength and resilience, a reminder that from the ashes of the earth, we can build structures that outlast the civilizations that dreamt them. The thought of the Pantheon's strength leads us gently to the mastery of another element, water. Leave the city centre now and float outward, toward the countryside, where the green fields are interrupted by the marching arches of the aqueducts. Picture them stretching for miles toward the horizon, a stone spine carrying a river in the sky. These are not just walls, they are a precise mathematical miracle. Visualize the gentle, consistent slope, a decline invisible to the naked eye that allows gravity alone to pull fresh, cool water from the distant mountain springs all the way to the heart of the feverish city. Can you hear it? The soft, rushing sound of clear water flowing through the stone channel high above the ground. It is the lifeblood of Rome. Imagine standing beneath one of these towering arches, the shadow cooling you from the midday sun, You can smell the moisture in the air, a clean mineral scent that promises refreshment. These structures speak of a civilization that refused to be bound by the limitations of geography. If the city needed water, they would move the river. Let the image of that flowing water soothe you, a continuous, uninterrupted stream of clarity washing away the dust, bringing life, bringing health, bringing the cool touch of the mountains to the scorching streets of the capital. Follow the water now as it tumbles from the aqueducts and enters the city, cascading into the magnificent bathing complexes, the thermae. Imagine stepping into the baths of Caracalla or Diocletian. The air here is thick, humid and fragrant with the scent of lavender oil and steam. The space is cavernous, with vaulted ceilings soaring high above, decorated with intricate mosaics of sea gods and fantastical creatures. You're walking through a sensory journey of temperature. First, feel the enveloping heat of the caldarium, the hot room. The steam rises from the pools, softening your skin, relaxing every muscle in your body, the heat penetrating deep into your bones. It is a place of total surrender to physical comfort. Then, you drift to the tepidarium, the warm room, a gentle transition where citizens lounge on marble benches, scraping oil from their skin with curved metal strigils, talking in low, relaxed tones. Finally, imagine the bracing electric shock of the frigidarium, the cold pool. The water is crystal clear and icy, a sudden awakening that tightens the skin and invigorates the spirit. The baths are not just for washing, they are palaces of the people, cathedrals of leisure where the poorest labourer and the wealthiest senator might float in the same water. It is a sanctuary of water and stone, a place where the body is honoured and the mind is allowed to rest in the hazy warmth of the steam. Refreshed and cleansed, you step out of the baths and find yourself standing at the beginning of a long straight path that cuts through the landscape like a spear. This is the Via Appia, the queen of roads. Look down at your feet. You're standing on large, flat basalt stones, fitted together so perfectly that you cannot slide a knife between them. They are smooth from the passage of millions of sandals, hooves and cartwheels. The road stretches out before you, disappearing into the vanishing point of the horizon. It is flanked on either side by tall, majestic umbrella pines, their canopies creating islands of shade. The scent of pine resin and dry earth is strong here. This road is the artery of the empire, the physical connection that binds the distant provinces to the capital. Imagine the rhythmic sound of a legion marching, the steady, disciplined crunch, crunch, crunch of leather boots on stone. But there is also the quiet solitude of the traveller. Walking this road feels purposeful. It is a symbol of order in a chaotic world. To be on the Via Appia is to be connected to everything else. It implies a journey that is safe, direct, and enduring. The road does not curve for nature. It demands that nature yield to it. Feel the stability of the ground beneath you, the certainty of the path. You do not need to know the way. The road knows it for you. You simply have to place one foot in front of the other, guided by the engineering genius that paved the way 2,000 years ago. The road leads us back, inevitably, to the sacred centre, to a place of profound silence amidst the city's bustle. We find ourselves standing before a small circular temple in the forum. The architecture is delicate, feminine, contrasting with the massive square basilicas nearby. This is the Temple of Vesta. Step inside into the dim, hallowed interior. Here, there is no statue of a god to worship. Instead, there is a fire, a single, living flame dancing on a hearth, casting flickering shadows against the curved walls. This is the eternal fire of Rome, the spiritual soul of the city. If this fire goes out, the empire falls. Visualize the guardians of this flame, the Vestal Virgins. They move silently through the temple dressed in layers of pure, snowy white linen. Their presence is ghost-like, revered, touched by a holiness that sets them apart from ordinary life. Watch as one of them gently feeds the fire, her movements slow and deliberate, The crackle of the wood is the only sound. The air smells of wood smoke and salted flour, the mola salsa prepared by their hands. There is a sense of immense burden and immense honour here. In a city of war and conquest, this small circle of light represents home, hearth, and continuity. Stare into the flame. Let its hypnotic dance mesmerise you. It is a fire that has burned for centuries, a constant warm heartbeat in the centre of the stone city, tended by the hands of devotion. From the quiet intimacy of the sacred fire, the energy shifts as we move toward the greatest spectacle of all. Looming before us is the Flavian amphitheatre, the Colosseum. But in our dream, we do not see the bloodshed. We see the magnificence of the structure. It rises like a mountain of travertine limestone, 4 stories high, a perfect oval against the blue sky. Walk through the cool, shadowed corridors of the arcade, the arches framing views of the city outside. As you emerge into the seating area, the sheer scale of it takes your breath away. 50,000 people could sit here. Look up and imagine the Valerium, a massive retractable canvas awning stretched over the top of the arena to shield the spectators from the fierce Roman sun. It ripples in the breeze, manipulated by sailors from the imperial fleet. The light inside is filtered, golden and hazy. The air is filled with a curious perfume. Hidden pipes spray a mist of water scented with saffron to cool the crowd and mask the smells of the wild animals below. It is a feat of engineering designed to overwhelm the senses, to create a shared experience of awe. Run your hand over the rough stone of the seats. Feel the vibration of the crowd's roar, a deep resonant thrumming that seems to come from the earth itself. It is a monument to public life, a place where the emperor and the citizens sit under the same saffron-scented shade, eyes fixed on the sand of the arena floor. As the sun begins to set, casting long purple shadows across the city, the roar of the crowd fades, and we retreat to a more intimate setting. The day is done, and it is time for the convivium, the Roman dinner party. You find yourself in a beautifully painted room, the walls adorned with frescoes of gardens and birds. The light comes from clay oil lamps, their small flames flickering and reflecting off polished silverware. You're not sitting at a table, you are reclining. Picture the triclinium, the arrangement of 3 couches in a U-shape, covered in soft cushions of crimson and gold. You lean back on your left elbow, your body relaxed, freed from the constraints of vertical posture. The atmosphere is one of indulgence and conversation. Servants drift silently in and out, placing platters of figs, grapes, olives, and roasted meats within reach. A silver goblet of wine, diluted with water and sweetened with honey, is placed in your hand. Taste the sweetness, the richness of the earth. The conversation flows as easily as the wine. Philosophy, gossip, poetry. There is no rush to finish the meal. It is a slow, unfolding ritual of friendship and pleasure. The mosaic floor feels cool nearby, but the lamps create a warm, golden bubble of light around you. Here, the power of Rome is softened into luxury, the conquest of the world distilled into a single, perfect evening of rest and nourishment. The day dissolves into the comfort of the cushions, the taste of honey, and the soft murmur of voices in the candlelight. The taste of that honeyed wine lingers on your tongue, a sweet and complex note that invites the mind to wander from the goblet in your hand to the sun-drenched hills where this elixir was born. Drift away from the dinner party now, floating on the memory of that flavour, until you find yourself hovering over the sloping vineyards of Campania. It is late autumn here, and the air is crisp, carrying the scent of turning leaves and damp earth. Visualize the vines themselves, ancient and gnarled, twisting like frozen lightning around the supporting elm trees. This is the birthplace of Falernian, the most legendary of all Roman wines. Imagine the heavy clusters of grapes, dark and dusted with a pale, powdery bloom, absorbing the final heat of the setting sun. There is a slow, methodical rhythm to the harvest here. Picture the workers moving through the rows, their hands stained purple with the juice of the grape, filling woven baskets with the bounty of the earth. But the magic truly happens in the dark, cool silence of the cellar. See the rows of tall clay amphorae, their pointed bottoms resting in beds of sand to keep them upright. These vessels are sealed with cork and pine resin, a scent that mingles with the fermenting fruit to create an aroma of deep, woody richness. To drink this wine is to drink time itself. The Romans understood the patience of aging, allowing the liquid to rest in the dark for 10, 20, sometimes even 100 years, until it became a syrup of amber fire. Feel the stillness of the cellar, the heavy, quiet air where the wine sleeps, transforming slowly in the dark, waiting to bring warmth to a future night. From the amber depths of the wine, our senses shift to another liquid treasure, one that glows with the golden hue of the midday sun. We drift from the vineyards to the olive groves that carpet the hillsides, their leaves shimmering silver green in the breeze. This is the source of the liquid gold that fuels the empire. Imagine the thickness, the viscosity of fresh olive oil as it is pressed from the stone-crushed fruit. It is more than just food. It is a substance of cleansing and light. Visualize the vast warehouses along the river, filled with millions of terracotta jars known as amphorae, devoted solely to this precious oil. There is a hill in Rome, the Monte Testaccio, which is not a hill of earth, but a man-made mountain created entirely from the broken shards of these oil jars, a testament to the sheer volume of oil flowing into the eternal city. Imagine dipping your fingers into a bowl of this oil. It feels smooth, rich, and coating. In the ancient world, before soap, this was the agent of purity. Athletes would slather their bodies in it before exercise, glistening like bronze statues under the sun, and then scrape it away, taking the dust and sweat with it. But even more soothing is its role in the night. Picture a small clay lamp, a simple vessel sitting on a bedside table. The oil wicked up through a piece of linen feeds a small, steady flame. It is this oil that pushes back the darkness, a gentle, organic light that allowed scholars to read and poets to write long after the sun had set. Connect with that warm, golden glow, a light born from the crushed fruit of the earth, illuminating the quiet corners of history. As the oil lamp casts its flickering shadows against the wall, notice the fabric draped over the chair nearby. It is a heavy, voluminous garment, white as a cloud and laden with meaning. This is the toga. Let your mind explore the texture of this cloth. It is not light or airy. It is a substantial weave of high-quality wool, yards upon yards of it, cut in a vast semicircle. To wear the toga is to carry the weight of Roman citizenship. It is a sensation of enclosure, of being wrapped in dignity. Imagine the ritual of putting it on. It is not a task one can do alone. It requires assistance, a slow, deliberate choreography of folding and draping. The wool is placed over the left shoulder, wrapped around the back, under the right arm, and thrown back over the shoulder again, creating a complex series of folds known as the sinus and the umbo. These folds are not just for style, they're pockets, places to hold a scroll or a purse. Visualize the distinctive purple stripe running along the edge of the toga worn by a magistrate, the toga praetexta. That deep, rich dye, extracted from thousands of murex sea snails, is a signal of power that commands silence in the streets. But here, in the quiet of the room, the toga is simply a blanket of prestige. Imagine the feeling of the wool settling against the body, a heavy, protective layer that enforces a slow, stately way of moving. You cannot run in a toga, you must walk with purpose and grace. It grounds you, slowing your pace to the rhythm of a civilization that believed in the majesty of appearance. We leave the heavy wool behind and step out of the private room into the central heart of the Roman home, the atrium. The air here changes instantly. It is cooler, fresher, and filled with a sense of geometric calm. This is the formal entrance hall, but it is unlike any hallway in the modern world. Look up. In the centre of the high ceiling there is a square opening to the sky, the compluvium. It frames a perfect square of blue heaven during the day, or a square of stars at night. Directly beneath it, sunk into the mosaic floor, is a shallow rectangular pool of water, the impluvium. Watch as a gentle rain begins to fall. The droplets descend through the open roof, landing with soft rhythmic splashes in the pool below. The sound is hypnotic, a natural water clock marking the passage of the storm. The water ripples, reflecting the painted frescoes on the walls, blurring the images of gods and gardens into moving abstract colours. This architectural design is a stroke of genius, bringing the elements of nature, light, air and water, right into the centre of the domestic sanctuary, while keeping the harsh sun and the street noise at bay. Breathe in the damp, cool air. The atrium is a space of shadows and light, a private courtyard that feels like a lung for the house, allowing it to breathe. It is a place to stand and watch the sky change, protected by the solid walls of your home, connected to the weather yet sheltered from its force. In a quiet corner of this atrium, away from the splash of the rain, you discover a small, intimate niche set into the wall. It looks like a miniature temple, no larger than a dollhouse. This is the lararium, the spiritual centre of the household. Approach it with reverence, for this is where the family's guardians reside. Inside this shrine, small bronze and clay figurines stand watch. These are the lares and penates, the spirits of the ancestors and the guardians of the pantry. They are not the distant, thunder-wielding gods of the high temples. They're close, personal, and familiar. Picture the flickering light of a beeswax candle illuminating their tiny faces. There is a painted scene on the back wall of the shrine, two serpents gliding toward an altar, symbols of fertility and protection. Imagine the daily ritual performed here. The father of the house places a small offering, perhaps a pinch of spelt wheat, a few grapes, or a garland of fresh flowers, before the statuettes. It is a moment of whispered connection, a silent prayer for health, for safety, for the food on the table. The lararium creates a feeling of being watched over, not with judgment, but with care. It anchors the house in a lineage of blood and memory, ensuring that no one ever truly dwells alone. Feel the warmth radiating from this tiny hearth, a spiritual heartbeat that pulses quietly within the walls, protecting the family while they sleep. As the family sleeps, we drift through the heavy wooden doors of the house and out into the darkened streets of the city. The noise of the day has vanished, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the distant bark of a dog. But the streets are not entirely abandoned. Moving softly through the shadows, you see the orange glow of torches bobbing in the distance. These are the vigils, the watchmen of Rome. They are the guardians of the night, a hybrid force of firefighters and police who patrol the labyrinthine alleys while the citizens dream. Watch them as they walk, their sandals making soft scuffing sounds on the paving stones. They carry axes and buckets made of rope and tar, ever vigilant against the city's greatest enemy, fire. In a city of oil lamps and wooden beams, the vigils are the line between safety and destruction. There is a comfort in their presence. Imagine standing unseen in a doorway as a patrol passes by. The torchlight sweeps across the brickwork, momentarily illuminating the graffiti on a wall before plunging it back into darkness. They speak in low tones, their eyes scanning the rooftops for smoke. They are the unsung heroes of the Empire, the ones who ensure that the sun will rise on a city that still stands. Feel the sense of security they provide, a protective grid of walking light that weaves through the sleeping capital, keeping the chaos of the night at bay. The torchlight of the vigils flickers upward, revealing that not everyone in Rome lives in the spacious atrium houses below. Your gaze is drawn up, story after story, up the side of a towering brick apartment block. This is an insula. It stands like a cliff face of terracotta and stucco rising 5, 6, perhaps 7 floors into the night sky. While the wealthy hug the ground, the vast majority of Romans live here, in the air. Float upward now, past the balconies where laundry hangs drying in the night breeze, fluttering like flags of the common people. The architecture here is a hive of humanity. On the ground floor, shops are shuttered tight behind heavy wooden planks. Above them, the apartments are small but vibrant. Imagine the view from a window on the top floor. You're level with the birds, looking out over a sea of tiled roofs that stretch to the horizon. It is a different kind of life up here, closer to the elements, swaying slightly in the high winds. You can smell the cooking fires of 100 neighbours, a blend of garlic, fish sauce, and wood smoke. It is a vertical village where privacy is scarce but community is tight. Vines grow in pots on the window ledges, reaching for the sun. Pigeons coo softly from the eaves. There is a sense of density, of life stacked upon life, a testament to the sheer energy of a city that had run out of room on the ground and decided to conquer the sky. Feeling the need for space and air, you drift away from the crowded apartment blocks, floating toward the edge of the city where the stone gives way to lush greenery. You have arrived at the Horti, the great pleasure gardens of Rome. These are not wild forests, but nature tamed and sculpted into art. The moonlight turns the leaves of the boxwood hedges into silver lacework. Everything here is designed for tranquility. Walk down a path of crushed white gravel that glows in the dark. On either side, manicured cypress trees stand like tall, dark exclamation points against the stars. The air is heavy with the scent of jasmine and roses, a perfume so thick you can almost taste it. Listen to the sound of water, not the rushing of the aqueducts, but the delicate musical trickling of fountains. Water sprays from the mouths of stone dolphins and flows into marble basins filled with lily pads. Statues of nymphs and satyrs peek out from behind the foliage, frozen in eternal play. This is a sensory escape valve for the masters of the world. It is a place where the rigidity of Roman law melts into the organic curves of nature. Visualize a pergola draped in ivy, offering a cool, shadowed bench where one could sit and listen to the wind rustling through the leaves. It is a paradise constructed by human hands, a green sanctuary where the mind can rest, surrounded by the beauty of order imposed upon the wild earth. In the centre of the garden stands a strange and beautiful object, an obelisk casting a long, sharp shadow across a paved circle. This brings our mind to the Roman concept of time. The shadow is part of a massive sundial, the solarium. Reflect on how the ancients felt the passage of time. They did not live by the frantic ticking of a second hand, but by the slow, fluid movement of the sun. The day was divided into 12 hours, but these hours were elastic, stretching long in the summer and shrinking short in the winter. Time was a living thing, breathing in sync with the seasons. Imagine the shadow of the obelisk creeping almost imperceptibly across the marked lines of the pavement. It is a slow, silent sweep that connects the rotation of the earth to the daily life of the citizen. And when the sun vanishes, picture the clepsydra, the water clock. A vessel filled with water drips slowly, drop by steady drop, into a container below. As the water level rises, a floating marker points to the hour. Drip, drip, drip. The sound is the heartbeat of the universe. It is a measuring of existence that feels like a flow rather than a countdown. There is no anxiety in this time, only a natural cycle of light and dark, a rhythm that encourages you to move in harmony with the world rather than fighting against it. The slow dripping of the water clock accelerates, transforming into the rhythmic thunder of galloping hooves. The energy rises as we drift toward the valley between the Palatine and Aventine hills to the colossal open space of the Circus Maximus. Empty your mind of the violence of Hollywood. Instead, focus on the sheer, majestic atmosphere of the race. The stadium is quiet now, dreaming of the day's events, but the memory of the energy lingers in the sand. This is a track of immense proportions, a long oval covered in soft golden dust. Visualize the spina, the central barrier running down the middle, adorned with ancient obelisks and statues of dolphins that count the laps. Close your eyes and hear the phantom sound of the chariots. It is a low rumble, like an approaching storm. Feel the vibration in the ground. The 4 factions, the reds, the whites, the blues, and the greens, are more than teams. They're identities, tribes of colour that divide the city in passion. Picture the horses, 4 abreast, their muscles rippling, manes braided with ribbons, snorting steam into the cool air. The focus here is on skill and speed, the intricate dance of the driver balancing on the axle, the reins wrapped around his waist. It is a spectacle of motion, a celebration of the bond between man and beast pushing the limits of physics. As you stand in the centre of the vast empty track, you can almost feel the wind of their passing, a ghostly breeze that swirls the dust around your feet, carrying the echo of 100,000 voices cheering in unison, a sound of pure, unadulterated life echoing through the centuries. The dust of the track settles, and the phantom roar of the crowd fades into the gentle, rhythmic breathing of the animals that made such thunder possible. Let your mind drift from the open arena to the quiet, warm sanctuary of the imperial stables in the Campus Martius. Here, the air is thick with the sweet, earthy scent of dried clover, crushed oats, and worn leather. Visualize the racehorses of Rome in their resting state. These are not mere beasts of burden. They are the celebrities of the empire, treated with a reverence that borders on the sacred. Picture their coats, groomed to a mirror-like sheen, glossy bays, midnight blacks and dapple greys, gleaming under the soft light of oil lamps. Run your hand in your mind along the muscular neck of a champion. The skin is warm and velvet soft, twitching slightly at your touch. The stall is lined with fresh golden straw, rustling softly as the horse shifts its weight. In the corner, a palm branch lies wilting, the symbol of a recent victory. These creatures are the pride of the factions, fed on the finest grain from North Africa, their manes braided with pearls and ribbons. There is a profound sense of peace here, a contrast to the adrenaline of the track. It is the peace of power at rest. Listen to the sound of them chewing, a slow, steady crunching that grounds you in the simple, biological reality of life. The bond between the charioteer and the horse is silent and deep, a connection of touch and breath in the quiet dark before the dawn of the next race. The discipline required to control such powerful animals mirrors the discipline that governs the edges of the empire. From the warm straw of the stables, let your spirit expand outward, flying over the mountains and forests to the remote frontiers, where we find the perfection of the Roman military camp, the castrum. Imagine looking down from a great height at a landscape of wild, untamed forest. In the centre of this chaos sits a perfect square of order. This is the temporary home of the legion. As the sun begins to set, painting the sky in bruises of purple and red, visualize the soldiers digging the ditch, the fossa that surrounds the camp. It is a ritual performed every single night, no matter how tired they are. The earth is moved with rhythmic precision. Inside the ditch, they raise a wall of wooden stakes, the vallum, creating a fortress that appears from nothing. The geometry is soothing to the mind. It is identical in every camp, from the sands of Syria to the mists of Britannia. You know exactly where everything is. Picture the rows of leather tents, arranged in straight, unwavering lines. The smoke from the cooking fires rises in vertical columns, smelling of bacon and flatbread. There is a deep sense of security in this grid. It is a machine of safety constructed from human effort. Walking down the Via Principalis, the main street of the camp, you feel the safety of the collective. Thousands of men sleeping in sync, guarded by the geometry of the ramparts, a pocket of civilization imposed upon the wild. Focus now on the individual soldier standing guard on the rampart, and specifically on the large curved object resting against his leg. This is the scutum, the great rectangular shield of the legionary. It is not a simple piece of metal, but a masterpiece of woodworking. Visualize the construction of this shield. It is made of plywood, strips of wood glued together with the grain running in alternating directions. This makes it incredibly flexible yet impenetrable. able to absorb the shock of a blow without shattering. It is covered in canvas and then tough, hardened leather, painted in vibrant shades of red and gold, perhaps bearing the winged thunderbolts of Jupiter. Imagine the weight of it on your arm, heavy and reassuring. It covers you from chin to shin. Now, visualize the soldiers coming together, shoulder to shoulder, locking these shields above their heads. They are forming the testudo, the tortoise formation. The individual soldiers disappear, replaced by a shell of wood and leather. It is a moving roof, a single entity made of many parts. Imagine the sound of rain, or arrows, tapping harmlessly against this shell. Tap, tap, tap. It is the sound of invulnerability. Underneath, in the dim light, the soldiers breathe in unison, safe within the architecture of their own cooperation. It is a powerful image of unity, where the self dissolves into the protection of the whole, a shelter carried by human hands. The order of the legion is merely a reflection of the order of the state. Let the image of the interlocking shields dissolve into the interlocking stones of the Roman Forum once again, where we stand before the foundation of all Roman order, the 12 tables. Imagine standing in the cool shadow of the rostra. Before you stand 12 immense tablets cast in bronze. They have oxidized over the centuries, turning a deep, rich verdigris green, but the letters incised into them catch the light. This is the law made physical. Before this, the law was a secret, whispered by priests and aristocrats. Now, it is solid, visible, and unchangeable. Run your fingers over the cold metal. You can feel the grooves of the letters. Exhibiting the law was a radical act. It meant that justice was not a whim of the powerful, but a fixed object that anyone could point to. The air here feels heavy with gravity and consequence. These tablets govern everything: how a father treats a son, how a neighbour marks a boundary, how a debt is paid. There is a comfort in this rigidity. It suggests that the world is not chaotic, that there are rules that hold the fabric of society together like the mortar between bricks. It is the birth of the concept that the law is above the man. Stand before the bronze and feel the stability it offers, a silent promise of fairness standing guard in the centre of the city, enduring through wind, rain, and the passage of emperors. The laws on those tablets are written in a language that will echo longer than the bronze itself. Let your mind tune in to the sound of Latin. It is not a dead language in this dream. It is alive, resonant, and muscular. Listen to the cadence of a conversation drifting across the forum. The vowels are open and pure. Ah, a, o, oo. The consonants are crisp and percussive. There is a rhythm to it, a majestic meter that sounds like architecture turned into sound. It is a language built for stone. Visualize a stonecutter working on a dedication slab. Clink, clink, clink. He is carving the letter V. In the Roman world, there is no soft U, only the sharp, angular V that serves both purposes. Sinat V, popvelovskvi romanvs. The letters are all capitals, all straight lines and perfect curves, designed to catch the sun and cast a shadow, making the words readable from a distance. The language feels solid, logical, and structured, much like the roads and the aqueducts. It connects the mind to a sense of permanence. When you speak a word of Latin, you are speaking a root that will feed the tongues of the future. Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese. Feel the vibration of the words in your chest, deep and authoritative. It is the sound of history speaking to itself, a linguistic bridge that spans 2,000 years. Follow the sound of the spoken word until it leads you into a place of profound silence and concentration. The great library of Trajan, the Bibliotheca Ulpia. You step out of the bright sun into a high-ceilinged hall where the light is filtered through translucent alabaster windows, creating a soft, milky glow. The air here is cool and smells intensely of cedarwood and citrus oil. This is not just a pleasant perfume, it is a preservative, applied to the papyrus scrolls to keep the moths and worms at bay. Walls of coloured marble tower above you, lined with wooden niches, each honeycombed with rolled scrolls. There are no books with spines here. There is only the volumen, the rolling scroll. Imagine taking one from its shelf. It is light, fragile. You feel the texture of the papyrus, dried reeds from the Nile, hammered into a smooth sheet. To read, you must use both hands, unrolling with the right and rolling up with the left, revealing the text column by column. It is a physical act of revelation. The silence is thick, cushioned by the millions of words resting on the shelves. Scholars sit on curved benches lost in thought. You're surrounded by the knowledge of the known world. Greek philosophy on one side of the hall, Latin law and poetry on the other. It is a sanctuary of the mind, a place where the noise of the empire stops at the door, leaving only the quiet rustle of dry paper and the whisper of turning thoughts. But not all writing is meant to last forever. Leave the permanent scrolls behind and focus on the small wooden object resting on a scholar's desk. This is the wax tablet, the tabula, the iPad of the ancient world. It is a simple rectangular frame of beechwood, filled with a layer of dark black beeswax. The smell of the wax is sweet and organic, carrying the memory of the hive. Beside it lies a stylus, a sharp, pointed instrument of bone or bronze. Watch as a hand picks it up and presses into the wax. The writing is white against the black background, the stylus cutting easily through the soft surface. This is where daily life happens. The grocery lists, the love notes, the rough drafts of poems, the schoolwork. It is ephemeral. Now watch the hand flip the stylus over. The back end is flat and wide. With a smooth, sweeping motion, the writer presses the flat end into the wax, smoothing it out, erasing the words, returning the surface to blackness. This is the tabula rasa, the clean slate. There is something deeply relaxing about this ability to erase, to let go of mistakes, to smooth over the past and start fresh. The wax is forgiving. It warms slightly under the friction of the eraser. It is a tactile reminder that not everything needs to be carved in stone. Some things are meant to be written, experienced, and then smoothed away into the quiet dark. The image of the wax tablet brings us to the early morning light of a Roman childhood. It is before dawn, the streets are still grey, and a young boy is walking to school. Beside him walks an older man, his pedagogus, a trusted servant who guides him, carries his bag and protects his innocence. Enter the schoolroom, which is often just a curtained-off section of a shopfront, open to the sounds of the street. But focus on the lesson. The boy is learning to count. He does not use pen and paper. He uses a bag of small, smooth pebbles. These are calculi. Pour them out onto a wooden board. Hear the gentle, rain-like sound as they scatter. Clatter, click, click. Feel the texture of the stones, cool and polished by years of handling. Some are white limestone, some are dark basalt. The boy moves them into rows, grouping them by 5s and 10s. This is the physical origin of the word calculate, literally to use pebbles. There is a simple, satisfying logic to it. Mathematics here is something you can touch, something you can hold in your hand. The clicking of the stones is a rhythmic, meditative sound, a slow accumulation of knowledge. It is a humble beginning for the minds that will one day engineer the dome of the Pantheon, starting with the simple movement of a smooth stone from one pile to another in the soft light of the morning. As the pebbles are arranged into groups, they begin to form shapes that look familiar. They form the structure of Roman numerals. Let your mind visualize these symbols not as abstract math, but as pictures. Look at your own hand. Hold up one finger. That is I. Hold up 2. Now open your hand wide, stretching the thumb away from the fingers. Look at the shape of the space between your thumb and forefinger. It is a V. This is the origin of the number 5. Now imagine 2 hands, 2 V's touching at the points, one upright, one upside down. They form an X. The number 10. These numbers are human. They are built from the body itself. Now see them carved into the attic of a great temple, MDCCLXXII. They look like columns. They look like architectural supports. They are blocky, sturdy, and balanced. Unlike our modern curving numbers, Roman numerals stand still. They have a grandeur to them. To read a date on a monument is to decode a puzzle, adding the values together: 1,000, 500, 100, 50, 10. It slows you down. It forces you to pause and assemble the number in your mind. Visualize the straight lines and sharp angles, the solidity of a counting system that looks as if it were built to support the weight of a roof. The counting of numbers leads inevitably to the counting of days. We end this cycle by looking at the grand tapestry of time itself, the Julian calendar. Before Rome, time was a confused mess of lunar cycles and forgotten days. But here, we find the structure that still governs our lives today. Visualize the year as a great circle. Standing at the doorway of this circle is the god Janus. He has two faces, one looking back into the past, one looking forward into the future. He is the patron of Januarius, the gateway to the year. He sees where we have been and where we are going. The Roman year is a rhythm of work and rest, governed by the fasti, days for business, and nefasti, days when the courts were closed and the gods were honoured. Imagine a large stone calendar displayed in a town square, the Fasti Praenestini. It is carved with notes on the harvest, the winds and the stars. It connects the civil year to the cosmic year. On this day, the west wind begins to blow. On this day, the Lyre constellation rises. Time in Rome is not just a grid, it is a story. It is deeply connected to the seasons, to the earth, to the sky. Feel the comfort of this cycle, the assurance that after the cold of winter, the grain will rise, the festivals will return, and the wheel will turn again. You're resting in a system of time designed to bring order to the universe, a calendar that aligns your heartbeat with the slow, steady rotation of the stars. The turning of the great calendar wheel brings us inevitably to the depths of winter, to the time when the nights are longest and the sun seems to hesitate on the edge of the horizon. Yet, in the Roman world, this darkness is not feared. It is conquered with a festival of light that warms the very soul of the city. This is the Saturnalia. Visualize the atmosphere of Rome in late December. The strict order of the toga and the law courts is suspended. The city loosens its belt. Imagine walking through the streets at twilight, usually dark and dangerous, now alive with the glow of thousands of wax tapers called cedar. These are not just lights. They are symbols of the returning sun, small prayers of fire against the cold. The air is filled with the scent of burning beeswax and roasting pork. There is a feeling of topsy-turvy joy here. The masters serve the slaves. The grim faces of the statues are softened by garlands of holly and greenery. Listen to the greeting that echoes from every corner, a shout of pure liberation. Io Saturnalia. It is a time when the rigidity of the empire melts into a communal embrace, a reminder that beneath the armour and the politics, there is a human need for warmth, for chaos, and for the simple, unburdened joy of being alive in the heart of winter. In the spirit of this festival, hands reach out to exchange tokens of affection, small objects that carry the weight of friendship. Focus your mind on the sigillaria, the traditional gifts of the season. These are small, humble figurines crafted from terracotta clay or dough. Imagine holding one of these little figures in your palm. It might be a shape of a god, a caricature of a famous actor, or a simple animal. Feel the texture of the fired earth, rough and dry against your skin. It possesses a primitive, childlike charm. In a world of marble monuments and golden statues, these small clay dolls represent something intimate and personal. They are the ancestors of the modern doll, the modern action figure, the modern keepsake. Visualize the stalls in the Campus Martius filled with rows and rows of these little faces, a market of miniature lives waiting to be taken home. To give a sigillarium is to say, I see you, and I wish you joy. There is a profound comfort in the simplicity of this exchange. It is not about the value of the object, but the warmth of the connection. It reminds us that at the height of the greatest empire on earth, happiness was found in a small piece of painted clay passed from one hand to another. From the rough texture of the clay doll, our gaze shifts downward to the floor on which it falls, to a surface that is a masterpiece of patience and fragmentation. We are looking at a Roman mosaic. Let your vision zoom in until you're no longer seeing the picture, but the individual atoms of the art, the tesserae. These are tiny cubes of stone, glass and ceramic, no larger than a fingernail. Visualize the artist kneeling for hours, days, months, placing each cube into the wet bed of lime mortar. Click, press, click, press. It is a meditation in stone. Run your mind over the surface. It is cool, hard and uneven, a tactile map of millions of decisions. The colours are earth-toned, the deep red of tile, the creamy white of limestone, the charcoal grey of basalt, and occasionally the flash of blue glass. As you pull your perspective back, the chaos of the dots resolves into order. A hunting dog leaps across the floor. A basket of fruit spills its bounty. The face of a sea god emerges from the abstraction. Walking across a mosaic is like walking across a painting that can never fade. It grounds the room in story and myth. It is a reminder that beauty is built piece by piece, that the grandest image is made of the smallest, simplest stones, fitting perfectly together in the mortar of time. Lift your eyes from the intricate floor to the walls that surround you. In the windowless rooms of a Roman villa, the walls are not barriers, they are portals to imaginary worlds. This is the magic of the fresco. Imagine standing in a room where the plaster is still damp, drinking in the pigments applied by a swift, sure hand. The Romans did not like to feel enclosed, so they painted the world they wished to see. Visualize the famous garden room of Livia. The walls dissolve into a lush, eternal spring. You're surrounded by painted cane fences, by pomegranate trees heavy with fruit, by birds suspended in mid-flight against a sky of impossible blue. The perspective is perfect, drawing the eye toward a vanishing point that suggests the room goes on forever. The colours are derived from nature, ochre from the earth, green from malachite, red from cinnabar. The surface is polished to a sheen that reflects the candlelight, making the painted leaves seem to shimmer. It is a quiet trick of the mind, a trompe-l'œil that allows the spirit to wander in a green and pleasant land while the body rests safely indoors. It creates a sense of spaciousness, a psychological breath of fresh air that denies the existence of the solid wall. But the comfort of the Roman home is not just visual, it is tactile, radiating from the very structure of the building. Beneath the mosaic floor and behind the frescoed walls lies an invisible engine of warmth, the hypocaust. Imagine you're a giant peering through the cross-section of the house. Beneath the floor you walk on, there is a hollow space, a hidden chamber supported by stacks of square tile pillars called pile. In the distance, outside the living quarters, a furnace burns, tended by slaves who feed it with slow-burning wood. Watch the heat, not as fire, but as a flowing current of hot air, drift from the furnace into this subfloor void. It curls around the pillars, warming the terracotta tiled above. The heat then rises through hollow rectangular tubes, tubuli, embedded in the walls, before escaping out the roof. The result is not the stifling blast of a radiator or a fireplace, but a gentle, radiating warmth that seems to come from nowhere. Imagine walking barefoot on the mosaic floor in the dead of winter. The stone is not cold, it is pleasantly warm, like a rock that has been baking in the sun all day. It is an enveloping, womb-like heat that permeates the room without a sound, without a draft, without smoke. It is the ultimate luxury, the conquest of winter through the mastery of air and stone. As the room glows with that gentle, radiant heat, the light catches an object sitting on a low wooden table. It is a small vessel, translucent and delicate, glowing with a soft aquatic light. This is Roman glass. Before this time, drinking vessels were heavy things of metal or pottery, but here we see the miracle of breath and sand. Visualize the glass blower's workshop, the heat of the kiln, the molten blob of silica gathered on the end of a hollow pipe. With a steady, controlled exhalation, the craftsman inflates the glass like a soap bubble. The result is something impossibly thin. Look at the colour of the bottle. It is the natural shade of Roman glass, a pale, watery blue-green, like the sea in the shallows. It is full of tiny imperfections, microscopic bubbles trapped in the walls that scatter the light. Run your finger down the side. It is smooth, cool, and feels fragile, almost dangerous in its delicacy. Light passes through it, staining the wooden table with a pool of aquamarine shadow. To drink from such a cup is to drink from solidified light. It represents a shift in the sensory world of Rome, a move toward transparency, toward seeing the wine inside the cup, holding a fragile beauty that requires a gentle hand and a calm spirit. Next to the glass vessel sits a small alabaster jar sealed with wax. Break the seal in your mind and let the scent fill the room. We are entering the world of Roman perfume, the unguentaria. Unlike modern perfumes, which are alcohol-based and evaporate quickly, Roman scents are oil-based, thick and lingering. They are meant to be massaged into the skin, not sprayed. Breathe in the aroma. It is complex and heavy. The base is olive oil or almond oil, steeped for weeks with petals, roots and resins. Smell the top notes of rhodium, a scent derived from roses grown in Paestum. Beneath that, the spicy, resinous warmth of myrrh and frankincense imported from the distant east, and perhaps a touch of saffron, earthy and metallic. Perfume in Rome is not just a cosmetic, it is a ritual of health and status. Imagine the sensation of the oil being rubbed into your wrists, your neck. It warms with your body heat, releasing the scent slowly over hours. It creates a personal atmosphere, a fragrant shield against the odours of the city. It suggests a life of leisure, of time spent in the bathhouse, of the luxury to smell like a garden in full bloom while sitting in a room of stone. The scent of saffron and purple flowers leads our imagination to the most political and powerful colour in history, Tyrian purple. Visualise a swath of fabric draped over a senator's chair. It is not the bright synthetic violet of today. It is a dark, brooding shade, something between dried blood and the deep ocean at twilight. This colour is born from the sea. Connect with the incredible effort required to create it. It comes from the mucus of the murex sea snail. Tens of thousands of these shells must be crushed and boiled to dye a single robe. The smell of the dyeworks is legendary, a stench of rotting shellfish that produces a colour of godlike beauty. Because of this, the colour is literally worth its weight in gold. To wear it is to wear a fortune. Look closely at the fabric. The colour seems to shift in the light, sometimes appearing reddish, sometimes almost black. It is the colour of the storm, the colour of the bruise, the colour of power. In a world of undyed wool and simple linens, this deep, saturated hue attracts the eye like a gravitational force. It commands respect. It creates a boundary between the ruler and the ruled. Feel the psychological weight of this colour, a pigment harvested from the crushing of millions of lives to clothe the one who stands at the top of the world. Complementing the heavy wool of the purple robe is a fabric so light it seems to float on the air. This is the mystery of the Ceres, the silk that has travelled the length of the known world to arrive in Rome. Trace the journey of this thread in your mind. It begins in a land the Romans know only as a myth, a place of dragon clouds and jade. It travels along the dusty, dangerous ribbons of the Silk Road, passing through the hands of Parthian merchants, crossing deserts and mountains, gaining value with every mile. By the time it reaches the market in Rome, it is woven into coa vestis, a fabric so thin it is almost transparent. Feel it between your thumb and forefinger. It has no texture, it is liquid smoothness. It warms instantly to the touch. It shimmers like a pearl. To the moralists of Rome, this fabric was a scandal, a material that clothed the body while revealing it. But to the skin, it is a whisper of pure indulgence. It is the tactile evidence of a world that is connected, a thread that binds the precipice of the Pacific to the shores of the Mediterranean. It flows over the body like water, a testament to the desire for softness in a hard world of iron and stone. We end this cycle not with an object, but with a state of being. We settle into the concept that allowed all this culture to flourish: otium. In the modern world, we define leisure as doing nothing. But for the Roman, otium is something deeper. It is the opposite of negotium, business. It is the productive peace of the soul. Picture a Roman statesman retired to his country villa. He is not idle. He is walking slowly through his colonnade, dictating a letter to a friend. He is reading a scroll of Greek philosophy. He is tending to his vines. This is otium, the time dedicated to the cultivation of the self. It is the silence necessary for wisdom to grow. Imagine the feeling of having absolutely nowhere to be. The sun moves across the sky, and your only task is to think, to read, to eat, and to sleep. It is a noble leisure, a justified rest. Let this concept wash over you now. You are in a state of otium. The business of the day, the negotium, is finished. The files are closed. The tools are down. You have permission to retreat into the garden of your own mind, to let the thoughts wander like vines, to simply exist in the quiet dignity of the present moment. There is no rush. There is only the peace of the villa, the shade of the cypress, and the freedom of the mind at rest. In the profound stillness of otium, where the mind is free to wander without burden, we find the fertile soil for the greatest of Roman philosophies, Stoicism. Let your thoughts drift from the sunny garden of the villa to the quiet, candlelit tent of an emperor on the northern frontier. Picture Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, sitting alone in the deep of night. Outside, the cold wind howls across the Danube, and the heavy tread of the centuries paces the frozen earth. But inside, there is a sanctuary of absolute calm. Stoicism is not the absence of feeling. It is the construction of an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that no external chaos can breach. Visualize this citadel within yourself. It is a room with thick stone walls, impervious to the storms of anxiety or the arrows of fortune. In this space, you are the master of your reaction. Imagine the scratch of the emperor's quill on papyrus as he writes his meditations. He is not writing for an audience. He is writing to soothe his own soul. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul, he writes. Feel the weight of that truth settling over you. The world may turn, empires may rise and fall, the noise of the crowd may roar, but in the centre of the circle there is a point of stillness that remains untouched. To practice this is to float in a sea of tranquility, observing the waves without being swept away by them, grounded in the knowledge that you possess everything you need within the quiet architecture of your own character. From this internal reverence for the self, the Roman mind extends its respect backward, creating a bridge to those who came before. In the flickering shadows of the atrium, the family sanctuary, we encounter the imagines, the wax masks of the ancestors. These are not the pale, frightening ghosts of folklore, but warm, familiar faces moulded from beeswax, preserving the exact features of grandfathers and great-grandfathers long departed. Visualize a wooden cabinet, the armarium, opening to reveal rows of these lifelike visages. They are painted to look alive, their eyes rendered in glass, their skin toned with ochre. The smell of the wax is old and comforting, a scent of preservation. When a prominent Roman died, actors would wear these masks in the funeral procession, dressing in the robes of state so that it seemed the entire lineage had returned to walk the deceased to their rest. But here, in the quiet of the house, they are silent guardians. Feel the sense of continuity they provide. You're not a solitary leaf blowing in the wind. You are part of a deep, strong tree. These faces watch over the daily life of the household, the meals, the arguments, the laughter. They represent a chain of being that is unbroken. There is a deep comfort in this presence, a feeling that you are never truly alone, that the wisdom and protection of the bloodline are always there, watching from the shadows with a waxen, silent benevolence. The procession of the ancestors leads us out of the city gates, away from the noise of the living, to the solemn and beautiful city of the dead that lines the Via Appia. In Rome, the dead are not hidden away in remote graveyards. They line the roads, speaking to the travellers who pass by. Imagine walking this road at sunset. The great tombs rise on either side of you like small houses, temples and towers. They are built of travertine and marble, glowing soft and pink in the fading light. This is the necropolis. But it is not a place of fear. It is a place of memory. The Romans believed that as long as your name was spoken, you were not truly dead. Read the inscriptions as you pass. "Stop, traveller, and look at me," they say. "As you are, I was. As I am, you will be." It is a gentle conversation between the past and the present. Families come here on picnic days to dine with their ancestors, pouring wine into the earth, sharing a meal on the stone benches. The atmosphere is peaceful, filled with the murmuring of the wind and the slow creak of cartwheels. To be buried here is to remain part of the community, watching the endless stream of life flow into and out of the eternal city. It is a resting place that is not silent, but filled with the comforting hum of humanity, a final home that still has a view of the road. Standing sentinel over these tombs, rising like dark green flames against the deepening blue of the twilight sky, are the cypress trees. Let your vision focus on the texture and form of this sacred tree, the Cupressus sempervirens. It is the tree of mourning, yes, but also the tree of eternal life, for it never loses its leaves, remaining a stoic green through the harshest winter and the driest summer. Visualize its shape, tall, narrow and columnar, pointing directly to the heavens. It takes up very little space on the ground, but reaches effortlessly for the stars. The scent of the cypress is sharp, clean, and resinous. It is a balsamic aroma that clears the lungs and calms the mind. Listen to the wind passing through its dense, needle-like foliage. It does not rustle like an oak. It sighs. It is a hush. Shh, shh. A natural white noise that encourages silence and contemplation. The wood of the cypress is resistant to rot and insects. It is incorruptible. To plant a cypress is to plant a guardian that will stand for centuries. In the heat of the Roman summer, these trees offer deep, cool pockets of shade, vertical lines of darkness that rest the eye and cool the spirit. They are the silent watchmen of the landscape, markers of sacred space that bridge the gap between the earth and the sky. Leaving the quiet shade of the cypress, we follow the road back toward the river, where the bustle of survival hums with a steady, rhythmic energy. We arrive at the port where the granaries swell with the golden lifeblood of the empire, the grain. This is the Cura Annonae, the divine care of the corn supply. Rome is a beast that must be fed, and the state takes this burden onto its own shoulders. Visualize the arrival of the great grain fleet from Egypt. The ships are massive, their bellies swollen with thousands of tons of wheat harvested from the fertile mud of the Nile. Watch the stevedores unloading the sacks, a river of gold pouring from the ships into the warehouses. The dust of the grain hangs in the air, glowing in shafts of sunlight, smelling of dry earth and summer fields. For the citizens of Rome, this grain is a birthright. Imagine holding a tessera, a small wooden or lead ticket, warm in your hand. This ticket entitles you to your monthly ration of grain, free of charge. It is the ultimate social safety net. There is a profound sense of security in this system. No matter how poor you are, no matter how hard the times, the emperor ensures you will have bread. It is a promise kept in wheat, a bond between the ruler and the people that manifests as the comfort of a full sack of grain waiting for you at the Porticus Minutia. From the raw grain, we move to the transformation of that bounty, stepping into the warm, yeast-scented embrace of the Pistrinum, the Roman bakery. The air here is thick, humid, and smells of toasted flour and wood smoke. Focus on the centre of the room, where the great millstones stand. They are made of dark, porous volcanic rock, shaped like giant hourglasses resting on conical bases. They are beautiful in their functional geometry. A donkey, blindfolded to keep it calm, walks a slow, patient circle, turning the stone. Grind, grind, grind. The sound is low and continuous, a vibration you feel in your teeth. The wheat is crushed between the stones, falling as soft white flour into the trough below. Now, watch the bakers, their arms dusted white, kneading the dough in great wooden tubs. They work with a rhythm born of years of practice, shaping the loaves, the panis quadratus. Visualize the loaf, round and scored into 8 wedges, looking like a wheel, with a cord tied around the waist to keep its shape. They slide the loaves into the wood-fired oven. The heat radiates outward, a dry, intense warmth that bakes the air itself. When the bread is pulled out, the crust is golden brown and crackling. The smell of fresh bread is universal, a primal scent of home and sustenance that bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the hunger of the body, promising warmth, fullness, and satisfaction. To accompany the bread, the Roman palate craves a flavour of intense depth and savouriness. We turn our senses now to the most ubiquitous and misunderstood essence of the ancient table, garum. Forget the modern aversion to fish sauce. Think instead of liquid amber, a condensation of the ocean's savoury soul. Travel in your mind to the coast of Spain or Pompeii, where the garum factories face the sea. Small fish, anchovies, sardines, mackerel, are layered with salt and herbs in great vats and left to ferment in the hot sun. It is a process of alchemy. Over months the solid fish dissolves, transforming into a clear golden brown liquid. It is pure umami. It is the taste of the sea concentrated. The Romans splashed this on everything, on roasted meats, on boiled vegetables, even into wine. Imagine the smell, salty, briny, pungent, like a sea breeze that has been distilled. It adds a bass note to the melody of the food, a richness that lingers on the tongue. Picture a small, elegant glass bottle on the dinner table, the liquid inside catching the light like whiskey. To taste it is to taste the minerals of the Mediterranean. It is the flavour of civilization, a sophisticated product that turned the bounty of the net into a sauce that could travel to the furthest frontiers, bringing the taste of the Italian coast to the misty hills of Britain. All this consumption, the grain, the bread, the oil, the wine, requires a cleansing, a way for the city to purify itself. Beneath the marble streets lies an engineering marvel as majestic as any temple, the Cloaca Maxima, the Great Drain. Do not recoil, instead, appreciate the flow. Think of it as an underground river, a man-made artery of water that flushes the city clean. Built originally by the Etruscan kings, it is a tunnel so large that a wagon loaded with hay could drive through it. Visualize the water rushing through the dark, arched tunnels constructed of massive tufa blocks, fitted without mortar. It is the sound of rushing water, echoing in the subterranean dark. It carries away the rain, the waste, the stagnant water of the marshes. It is the reason Rome can exist without succumbing to plague. Presiding over this flow is the goddess Cloacina, the cleanser. She represents the purity that comes from washing away the old. There is a psychological relief in the existence of this drain. It signifies that the city is a self-cleaning organism, that there is a system in place to handle the mess of life. Standing above a grate in the forum, you can hear the deep, distant roar of the water below, a constant hidden force that tirelessly scrubs the city from the inside out, returning everything eventually to the Tiber and the sea. The river Tiber, which receives these waters, holds a sanctuary of a different kind in its centre. Rising from the current like a ship made of stone is the Isola Tiberina. Tiber Island. This is the island of healing. Long ago, during a plague, the Romans brought the snake of the healing god Aesculapius from Greece. The legend says the snake slithered off the ship and swam to this island, marking it as sacred ground. Since then, it has been a place of hospitals and sanctuaries. Visualize the island's shape. The Romans actually built travertine walls around its perimeter to make it look like a trireme ship, complete with an obelisk for a mast. The air here feels different, separated from the city by the water, isolated and calm. The sound of the river rushing past on both sides creates a barrier of white noise, drowning out the clamour of the streets. You are in the city, but floating apart from it. Enter the temple of Aesculapius. The sick come here for dream incubation. They sleep in the temple porticos, lulled by the sound of the water and the scent of herbal incense, waiting for the god to visit them in a dream and prescribe a cure. Sacred, non-venomous snakes slither quietly across the cool marble floors, their dry scales rustling like leaves. They are not feared. They are the physical touch of the god. It is a place of surrender, where you lay your burden down and let the dream logic of the divine take over. The island remains a place of healing to this day, a dedicated vessel of compassion anchored in the middle of the rushing river of time. From the spiritual healing of the dream temple, we zoom in to the precise, confident hands of the Roman surgeon. We find ourselves in a medicus's office, looking at a set of bronze instruments laid out on a clean linen cloth. The Romans were pragmatic masters of the body. The tools they used, scalpels, forceps, bone levers, catheters, are shockingly similar to those used today. Visualize the bronze, cool, smooth, and heavy. It is an alloy that resists corrosion, polished to a dull gold shine. The scalpel handles are intricate, perhaps shaped like the stem of a plant or the paws of a lion, offering a grip that is both firm and delicate. There is a sense of extreme competence here. The surgeon, often a Greek trained in the schools of Alexandria, understands the architecture of the muscles and the flow of the blood. He washes his hands in vinegar and wine, a primitive antiseptic. He uses opium and henbane to dull the pain. While the idea of ancient surgery might seem frightening, focus on the intention, the desire to fix, to mend, to extract the arrow, to set the bone. It is the human drive to care for one another made manifest in metal. The instruments are not weapons. They are extensions of the healing hand. They represent a civilization that did not just pray to the gods for health, but forged the tools to secure it. There is a quiet beauty in the order of the table, the gleam of the bronze and the steady knowing hands waiting to restore the balance of the body. From the precise cool gleam of the surgeon's bronze instruments, our attention shifts to another metal that passes from hand to hand, binding the empire together not through healing, but through value. Feel the weight of a single silver coin resting in your palm. This is the denarius. Visualize the coin, slightly irregular, its edges worn smooth by the touch of 1,000 fingers, fingers of soldiers in Gaul, merchants in Egypt, and bakers in Ostia. It is a small disc of almost pure silver, cool and heavy for its size. On the obverse, the profile of the emperor is stamped in high relief. Trace the laurel wreath, the strong nose, the confident jawline with your mind's eye. This is not just currency. It is a portrait of the state itself. For many citizens in the far-flung provinces, this small piece of silver is the only time they will ever see the face of the man who rules them. Flip the coin over. Perhaps it bears an image of the goddess Pax holding an olive branch, or a galley ship sailing over stylized waves. Listen to the sound of it dropping into a purse, a clear bell-like chink that signifies commerce and order. The denarius is the standard, the heartbeat of the economy, a universal language of value that allows a man to buy wine in Syria with the same silver he earned selling wool in Britannia. It is a tangible piece of trust, a promise minted in metal that holds its worth wherever the Roman eagle flies. To find the source of this silver stream, we must travel to the summit of the Capitoline Hill, to the sacred precinct of the Temple of Juno Moneta. It is here, in the shadow of the goddess, that the coins are born, giving us the very word money. But before the metal was struck, this place was guarded by a flock of unlikely sentinels. Visualize the sacred geese of Juno. These are not the elegant birds of a decorative pond, but large, white, aggressive creatures with feathers like snow and beaks of orange flame. History tells us that when the Gauls tried to sneak up the hill in the dead of night, the dogs slept, but the geese awoke. Hear their cacophony, the loud honking alarm that saved the citadel. In the dreamtime of Rome, these birds are the symbols of vigilance. They wander the temple courtyard, their webbed feet slapping softly against the marble. They are pampered, fed on the finest grain, treated with the reverence due to saviours. The air here smells of feathers and incense. The presence of the geese reminds us that the safety of the state often relies on the instincts of the natural world. They are the living spirits of protection, white ghosts in the moonlight who watch over the gold and silver of the Republic, ensuring that the wealth of Rome is never taken by surprise. From the Temple of Money, we follow the flow of those silver coins down into the valley to the place where they are spent. Rising from the edge of the Forum is a marvel of brick and concrete that serves as the world's first shopping mall, Trajan's Market. Stand before the Great Hemicycle, a massive curved facade of red brick that embraces the hillside. It is a hive of activity, a multi-storey complex of over 150 shops and offices. But look at the architecture. The brickwork is exposed, not covered in marble, celebrating the honest, geometric beauty of the material. Walk through the Via Biberatica, the street of drinks, that runs through the complex. The air is cool and shadowy in the corridors, protected from the sun by high vaulted ceilings. The acoustics are resonant. The hum of bargaining, the clatter of sandals and the rolling of carts echo off the concrete vaults. Light floods in from large arched windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. This is not a chaotic bazaar. It is an ordered machine of commerce. You can find anything here: silk from the East, spices from Arabia, oil from Spain. It is a testament to the organisational genius of Rome, a place where the chaos of trade is tamed by the elegance of the arch, creating a cathedral of consumption where the citizen can wander for hours in the cool brick-lined belly of the economy. Shopping works up an appetite, and as you turn a corner in the market, the savoury scent of hot food stops you in your tracks. You have arrived at a thermopolium, the ancestor of the fast food restaurant. These establishments are everywhere in the city, open to the street, welcoming the poor who have no kitchens in their cramped apartments. Visualize the L-shaped masonry counter, faced with fragments of colourful marble. Sunk deep into the top of the counter are large terracotta jars, the dolia, keeping the hot food warm and the cool drinks cool. Peer into the jars. One holds a stew of lentils and pork, dark and hearty. Another holds spiced wine, calda, steaming in the winter air. Another is filled with dried nuts and figs. The counter is stained with the rings of 1,000 cups. It is a place of noise and camaraderie. Locals lean against the bar, wiping their mouths with the backs of their hands, gossiping about the chariot races. The owner ladles out a portion of food into a bowl, the steam rising into the street. It is a sensory pocket of warmth and sustenance, a place that smells of garlic, wood smoke, and humanity. It represents the vibrant street life of the city, where dining is not always a formal affair, but a quick, delicious pause in the rhythm of the day, standing shoulder to shoulder with your neighbours. The bowl in which your stew is served is not a rough grey thing. It is a piece of terra sigillata, the famous Samian ware that graced tables from the Rhine to the Nile. Focus on the colour, a deep, glossy, coral red. This pottery is smooth to the touch, slipping through your fingers like polished stone. It is not painted. The colour comes from the iron-rich clay slip and the oxidizing atmosphere of the kiln. It shines. Many of these bowls and plates are decorated with relief figures, gladiators fighting, vines twisting, deer leaping, pressed into the clay using moulds. This is the first mass-produced art in history. Millions of these red vessels travelled the roads of the empire. Imagine a stack of them, fresh from the kiln in Gaul, glowing like embers. To eat from terra sigillata is to participate in a shared aesthetic. Whether you're a soldier in a rainy outpost or a merchant in sunny Naples, you're eating from the same red plate. It connects the dining experience of the entire Western world. The smooth, waxy feel of the ceramic against your lip is a sensation known to millions, a red thread of domesticity that weaves through the daily life of the empire. While you eat, you notice a crowd gathering near a whitewashed board erected in the forum. They are reading the Acta Diurna, the Daily Acts, the grandfather of the modern newspaper. In a world without internet or radio, this is the pulse of information. Visualize the stone or wooden tablet, painted stark white, with text painted in black or carved into the surface. It is updated every single day. The scribes have recorded the news, the results of the latest trials, the births and deaths of prominent citizens, the grain prices, even an account of a fire in the suburbs. There is a quiet murmur as those who can read recite the news to those who cannot. The emperor has recovered from his fever. A two-headed calf was born in Ostia. It is a mixture of state propaganda and tabloid gossip. Feel the sense of connection this creates. By reading this board, you are synchronized with the city. You know what the Senate decided yesterday. You know which gladiator won the match. It turns the vast city into a village, creating a shared reality. The Acta Diurna is a testament to the Roman obsession with record-keeping and transparency, a public diary of the empire that invites every citizen to witness the unfolding of history. But there is another kind of reading to be done in Rome, one that is far more personal and unregulated. Look closely at the plaster wall of the tavern, at the columns of the portico. They are covered in graffiti. This is not the spray paint vandalism of today. It is the scratching of the human voice into the skin of the city. Using a stylus or a nail, people have etched their thoughts into the plaster. It is an ancient social media feed. Read the messages that drift across the centuries. Gaius was here. I don't want to sell my tunic. Epaphra, you are bald. I have caught a cold. There are drawings of boats, of gladiators, of caricatures with big noses. It is incredibly intimate. You can feel the presence of the individual hand, the moment of boredom or passion that led to the scratch. The walls of Rome are not silent. They are chattering. They are a palimpsest of desires, jokes, and mundane observations. To read Roman graffiti is to realize that people have not changed. They wanted to be remembered. They wanted to make a mark. They wanted to tell the world they were in love. These scratches are the ghosts of the common people, refusing to be forgotten by the marble monuments, whispering their existence into the soft plaster for us to find 2,000 years later. The urge to communicate stretches far beyond the city walls, all the way to the misty, mud-soaked frontiers of Britannia. Buried in the peat of a remote fort called Vindolanda, we find the most touching of all Roman artifacts, the Vindolanda tablets. These are not scrolls. They are thin, postcard-sized slivers of birch and alderwood, no thicker than a veneer. They are covered in ink written in a cursive script that flows like running water. The peat has preserved them perfectly, keeping the wood pale and the ink black. These are the letters of the soldiers and their families living at the edge of the world. Listen to the voices rising from the wood. A birthday invitation. Claudia Severa to her Lepidina greetings. I invite you to come for my birthday. A plea for supplies. I have sent you pairs of socks, 2 pairs of sandals, and 2 pairs of underpants. It is the mundane reality of life in the army. You can feel the cold wind of northern England in these words, the longing for warmth, the importance of a good pair of wool socks. The handwriting varies. Sometimes the clumsy scrawl of a soldier, sometimes the elegant script of a scribe. Holding one of these tablets in your mind, you feel the fragility of the wood and the resilience of the human connection it carries. It is a whisper from the mud, a testament to friendship and domestic care surviving in the harsh grey landscape of the frontier. Lift your eyes from the delicate wood of the tablets to the massive stone spine that defines that very frontier. This is Hadrian's Wall. Visualize it stretching for 80 Roman miles, a ribbon of white stone undulating over the rolling green hills of northern Britain. It is not just a wall, it is a definitive statement of, here is Rome and there is the rest. The mist hangs low over the crags, damp and cool against your face. The grass is a vivid emerald green, wet with dew. The wall stands 10 feet wide and 15 feet high, a barrier of dressed stone that glows softly in the overcast light. Every mile there is a castle, between them turrets. Walk along the top of the rampart. To your south there is civilization, baths, warm wine and law. To your north, the wild, heather-covered moors and the wind. The silence here is profound, broken only by the bleating of sheep and the cry of a curlew. The wall feels lonely, yet majestic. It is the physical limit of the dream, the point where the expansion stopped. Feel the texture of the rough-hewn stone wet with rain. It represents the desire for security, a line drawn across the earth to keep the chaos at bay, standing watch over the edge of the known world for centuries. From the furthest edge, the invisible strings of the road network pull us back, mile by mile, back to the beating heart of the empire. We find ourselves standing in the Roman Forum at the base of a singular golden column. This is the Miliarium Aureum, the golden milestone. It is a column of marble sheathed in gilded bronze, shining like a beacon in the sun. This is the true centre of the world. It is the 0 point from which all distances in the empire are measured. Visualize the great roads radiating out from this single point like the spokes of a wheel. The Via Appia, the Via Flaminia, the Via Aurelia. Inscribed on the golden surface are the names of the major cities and their distances from Rome: Alexandria, Carthage, Byzantium. To touch this column is to touch the anchor of the web. It is a conceptual masterpiece, grounding the geography of the entire Mediterranean to this one spot of earth. The phrase, "all roads lead to Rome," is not a metaphor here. It is a physical reality. Standing here, you feel the gravitational pull of the city. You're at the nexus, the convergence point of millions of footsteps, millions of miles of stone, all leading back to this golden pillar that glitters in the centre of the forum, anchoring the vastness of the world to a single golden centre. This focus on the centre brings our attention to the symbol of the state's ultimate authority, the fasces. Focus on the bundle of wooden rods. These are birch or elm sticks tied tightly together with a red leather strap. On their own, each stick is fragile and easily broken, but bound together, they are unbreakable. This is the visual language of strength through unity. Protruding from the bundle is the head of an axe. The object is carried by the lictors, the bodyguards of the magistrates. As they walk through the crowd, the people part like water. The fasces is a heavy physical object, resting on the shoulder of the lictor. It smells of polished wood and oiled leather. It is frightening, yes, for it represents the power to punish, but it is also reassuring. It signifies that there is a legitimate power, that society is not a mob. The bundle is a meditation on the collective. We are the rods. Alone, we snap. Together, bound by the leather of the law and the state, we are solid. Let the image of the bound wood settle in your mind as a symbol of structure, of the necessary constraints that allow a civilization to stand tall against the chaos of the world. The power of the state is vast, but the favour of the gods is mysterious. To navigate the uncertain future, the Romans turn to the augur. We find him standing on a high hill at dawn, his face turned toward the south. He's holding a lituus, a curved staff free of knots. The city is silent below him. He is waiting for the birds. This is the taking of the auspices. The sky's divided into quadrants in his mind, the templum of the air. He watches with an intensity that borders on trance. A flight of eagles appearing on the left? A good omen. A raven croaking on the right? A warning. The Romans believed that the will of the gods was written in the patterns of nature, in the flight of birds, the eating habits of chickens, the flash of lightning. It is a world where nothing is random. Every movement in the sky has meaning. Feel the cool morning air, the tension of the weight. The augur does not guess, he observes. He is a reader of the invisible currents of destiny. There is a deep comfort in this belief, the idea that the universe is communicating with us, that if we are just quiet enough and observant enough, we can see the path forward written on the wings of a bird gliding through the pale morning light. From the high hill of the augur, we descend to the domestic intimacy of the kitchen garden, where the humble, earthy scent of herbs rises to meet us. We are looking for silphium, the lost spice of antiquity. Imagine a plant that was more valuable than gold, a giant fennel with a thick golden stalk and broad leaves. It grew only in a narrow strip of land in Serene, North Africa. The Romans loved it with a passion that drove it to extinction. But in our dream, the plant is still alive. Crush a leaf between your fingers. The scent is overpowering, a mix of garlic, onion, and something floral and sweet, unlike anything that exists today. It was the defining flavour of Roman haute cuisine, grated over truffles, stirred into sauces, fed to sheep to make their meat delectable. It was a gift from the wild that refused to be farmed. Visualize the coins that bore its image, so precious was this vegetable. It represents the fleeting nature of nature's gifts. Taste the phantom flavour on your tongue, sharp, rich, and aromatic. It is a ghost of a sensation, a reminder of a flavour that once pleasured the palates of emperors and is now lost to time, existing only in the memory of the wind blowing across the African coast. The savoury memory of silphium fades, replaced by the sweet golden viscosity of honey. In a world without sugar, this is the only source of sweetness, the nectar of the gods made manifest on earth. Travel to a Roman apiary, where hives made of woven wicker or cork bark sit in a sun-drenched meadow of clover and thyme. The hum of the bees is a low, constant drone, a vibration of pure industry. The Romans were master beekeepers. They understood the society of the hive. Watch the beekeeper, covered in protective linen, lifting a comb dripping with amber liquid. The smell is intoxicating, sweet, floral, and waxy. Honey was used for everything: to sweeten wine, to preserve fruit, to dress wounds, to pay taxes. It never spoils. You could eat Roman honey today and it would still taste of the ancient summer. Visualize a spoon dipping into a jar of this liquid gold, the slow, thick ribbon trailing down. It catches the light, glowing from within. It is the taste of the sun, trapped and distilled by 1,000 tiny wings. It brings a feeling of warmth and indulgence, a pure, natural sweetness that comforts the spirit and preserves the bounty of the season long into the winter. From the preservation of food, we move to the preservation of the self, specifically the Roman obsession with the bath and the tool that made it possible, the strigil. You're back in the tepidarium, the warm room of the baths. Your skin is glistening with olive oil, softening in the heat. But you do not wash with soap. You use the strigil. Visualize this tool, a curved bronze scraper with a looped handle, shaped to fit the contours of the body. It looks almost like a piece of abstract sculpture. Feel the metal against your skin, firm but not sharp. You pull it along your arm and it collects the oil, the dust, the sweat, scraping it all away in a satisfying rhythmic motion. Scrape, swipe, scrape, swipe. It is a deep cleaning, an exfoliation that leaves the skin red and tingling and incredibly smooth. There is a specific sound to it, a metallic friction against the skin. It is a grooming ritual that connects you to the physical reality of the body. You're carving away the dirt of the day, revealing the fresh, clean self underneath. It is a sensation of renewal, a shedding of the old layer to step fresh and gleaming into the cooling waters of the pool. Clean and refreshed, we step out of the baths and hear the sudden sharp clatter of dice on a wooden table. We are witnessing the Roman passion for alea, gambling. Focus on the dice themselves, the tesserae. They are carved from bone or ivory, yellowed with age, their edges softened by handling. They look exactly like modern dice, with the numbers 1 through 6 arranged so that opposite sides add up to 7. It is a design that has not changed in millennia. Watch them tumble from the fritillus, a small cup used to prevent cheating. Rattle, rattle, stop. The Romans were obsessed. Emperors wrote books on it. Soldiers played it in the dirt. Children played with nuts. It is the thrill of chance, the surrender to the goddess Fortuna. Hear the groan of the loser and the shout of the winner. Venus, the highest throw. The dog, the lowest. It is a moment of suspended time, where the weight of the empire falls away and everything depends on the way a small cube of bone lands on the wood. It is a reminder of the human need for play, for risk, and for the sudden, irrational hope that luck is on your side. The game ends, the dice are pocketed, and the players disperse as the sun begins to set, signalling the end of the working day. But how do they know the time? They look to the Solarium Augusti, the great sundial. We have seen the obelisk before, but now visualize the scale of the piazza in the Campus Martius. The ground is a vast pavement of travertine, inlaid with bronze lines and Greek letters. The obelisk is the gnomon, the giant needle that pins the sun to the earth. As the sun sinks low, the shadow stretches out, impossibly long, racing across the plaza. It crosses the line for the 9th hour. It is a machine made of shadow and stone. It aligns the emperor's birthday with the equinox, a cosmic piece of propaganda. But for the ordinary citizen, it is simply the clock of the world. Watch the shadow blur at the edges as the light fails. It is a soft, silent movement. There is no ticking, only the gradual lengthening of the dark. It connects the city to the celestial mechanics of the solar system. You're standing on a map of time. The movement of the shadow tells you that the day is done, that the light is fading, and that it is time to return to the safety of the home, guided by the silent, shifting geometry of the sun. As the sun vanishes, the stars emerge, and we look up to see the constellations that guided the sailors and the farmers. But we are looking for a specific star, the Sidereus Nuncius of the ancient imagination, the planet Venus. To the Romans, this was the star of their mother goddess, Venus Genitrix. It hangs bright and steady in the western sky, the first light of the evening. It represents love, beauty, and the origin of the Julian clan. Visualize the light of this planet reflecting in the dark waters of the Tiber. It is a diamond in the twilight. It offers a sense of maternal protection over the city. The Romans felt a personal connection to this star. They believed they were the children of Venus through her son Aeneas. Staring at it, you feel a link between the stone city on the earth and the divine light in the heavens. It is a point of beauty that transcends the grime and the noise, a pure white spark that promises that beauty is a fundamental force in the universe, watching over her children as they sleep. Under the light of Venus, the city gates are locked, but the roads remain open. We end this cycle by contemplating the cursus publicus, the imperial post. Imagine a lone rider galloping through the moonlight on the Via Flaminia. He is a courier of the state. He carries a diploma that allows him to change horses at the Mancio, the relay station spaced every few miles along the road. He does not stop to sleep. He transfers to a fresh horse, its breath steaming in the night air and thunders on. This is the nervous system of the empire. A message can travel from Rome to the Danube in mere days. It is a feat of organization that shrinks the world. Hear the rhythm of the hooves, beat, 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 fading into the distance. It is the sound of connection. Even in the dark, even in the silence of the countryside, the pulse of Rome is beating, carrying orders, carrying news, carrying the will of the Senate across the mountains and the seas, binding the vast, dreaming body of the empire into one. The rhythmic hoofbeats of the imperial courier fade into the silence of the countryside, but the network of roads he travels is not merely a path through the dirt. It is a line drawn on a map of staggering complexity. Drift now from the dark, wind-swept road to the illuminated wall of the Temple of Peace in the heart of Rome, where the entire city is captured in stone. This is the former Urbis Romae, the Great Marble Plan. Visualize a massive wall of brick towering 40 feet high, covered entirely in slabs of white marble. Etched into this stone surface with surgical precision is the ground plan of every single building in Rome. It is a map of giants. The lines are filled with vermilion paint, glowing red against the white stone. Stand before it and feel the sheer scale of the organization. Every temple, every bathhouse, every shop, every labyrinth and alleyway is recorded here. It is a testament to the Roman desire to know the world by measuring it. You can trace the floor plan of the Colosseum, the distinct columns of the porticos, the zigzag of the staircases. It is the city looking at itself in a mirror. Notice the small holes drilled into the marble where bronze clips hold the map together. It creates a sense of absolute permanence. This is not a paper map that folds and tears. It is a document built to last as long as the buildings it depicts. It suggests a civilization that believes its footprint is eternal, etched into the very bones of the geology. A white and red grid of order imposed upon the chaotic reality of human life. Tracing the red lines on the map, your finger follows the winding snake of the Tiber River until it crosses a distinct solid line connecting the island to the shore. This is the Pons Fabricius, the oldest bridge in Rome, standing unshaken for 2,000 years. Transport yourself to the banks of the river at dawn. The mist is rising from the water, swirling around the two massive arches of the bridge. Unlike the wooden bridges that rot and burn, this is built of travertine and tufa faced with brick. It feels heavy, rooted, and immovable. Walk across the paving stones. They're worn smooth by the sandals of history. The bridge is guarded by four-headed herms, stone pillars with faces looking backward and forward, the silent watchers of the crossing. Run your hand along the parapet. You can feel the inscription carved deep into the stone. L. Fabricius, curator viarum, faciundum curavit. Lucius Fabricius, guardian of the roads, saw to its building. It is a handshake across time. The bridge is a triumph of the arch, the weight of the stone pressing down to lock the structure together, growing stronger with pressure. Below you the Tiber churns, brown and swift, but you are suspended safely above it. It is a feeling of conquest over nature, a dry path over the wet chaos, a permanent link that binds the two halves of the city together in an embrace of stone. The water flowing beneath the bridge does not always stay in the riverbed. In the greatest spectacle of Roman engineering, the water is brought to the people in a way that defies logic. We enter the Colosseum again, not for a gladiator fight, but for the Naumachia, the mock sea battle. Close your eyes and imagine the impossible. The floor of the arena has vanished. In its place is a vast, shimmering lake, reflecting the blue sky and the stunned faces of 50,000 spectators. The wooden floorboards have been removed, the supports flooded by a complex system of sluice gates connected to the aqueducts. The air smells of stagnant water and ozone. Floating in this man-made sea are full-sized warships, biremes and triremes, their sails snapping in the breeze. It is a surreal juxtaposition, the heavy timbered reality of naval warfare enclosed within a stone theatre. Watch the oars splash into the water, churning it into white foam. The ships manoeuvre, the wood creaking, the sailors shouting orders. This is not a play. It is a reenactment with real consequences, a display of the Emperor's power to control the elements. He can turn land into sea and sea into land. The visual is hypnotic. The gentle bobbing of the hulls, the ripple of the water against the marble walls of the podium, a dreamlike fluid layer suspended in the heart of the dry, dusty city. Focus on the ships themselves. These are not clumsy barges, they are triremes, the sharks of the ancient Mediterranean. Let your mind drift below the deck, into the hot, cramped belly of the ship, to understand the rhythm of the Empire's power. You are in the rowing deck. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, garlic, and unwashed wool. But there is a mesmerizing order here. 3 banks of oars are stacked one above the other, a dense forest of wood and muscle. Listen to the sound that governs their lives, the beat of the calistes, the timekeeper. Boom, splash, boom, splash. It is the heartbeat of the ship. 170 men move as a single organism. The synchronization is absolute. If one man falters, the oars clash. Visualize the mechanics of the stroke, the reach, the catch, the pull. It is a trance of physical exertion. The ship glides forward, cutting through the waves with a terrifying speed, powered by the human engine. It is a meditation on unity. The individual rower is nothing. The crew is everything. Feel the vibration of the drum in your own chest, a deep, resonant thrumming that drives the prow of the ship forward, conquering the miles of the wine-dark sea through the sheer force of collective will. On the prow of the Roman ship stands a device that changed the history of the world, a mechanism of pure, brutal ingenuity, the corvus, or the raven. Visualize a heavy wooden bridge, 36 feet long, standing upright like a tower on the deck of the ship. At the top of this bridge is a massive iron spike curved like a bird's beak. This is the weapon. The Romans were not natural sailors, they were soldiers. They did not want to outsail the enemy. They wanted to walk onto their decks, watch the moment of contact. The enemy ship tries to maneuver away, but the Roman ship slams alongside. The bridge is released. Crash! The heavy iron beak smashes down, piercing the enemy deck, locking the 2 ships together in a death grip. The sea battle is instantly transformed into a land battle. The Roman legionaries, heavy with armour and discipline, charge across the wooden bridge. It is a triumph of engineering over seamanship. Hear the thud of the iron spike embedding itself in the wood. It is the sound of inevitability. The corvus represents the Roman refusal to play by the rules of others. If the sea is your weakness, you build a machine to turn the sea into the earth. It gives you a feeling of grounded confidence, the knowledge that you can bring your strength to bear in any environment. The soldiers charging across that bridge follow a single shimmering focal point. Above the chaos of the battle, catching the sun, rises the aquila, the eagle of the legion. This is not a flag. It is a god made of silver or gold. Visualize the bird with its wings spread wide, perched on top of a tall pole, clutching a thunderbolt in its talons. It is the soul of the legion. To lose the eagle is to lose the legion's honour, a shame worse than death. The man who carries it, the aquilifer, wears the pelt of a lion or a bear over his helmet, the animal's open jaws framing his face. He does not fight for himself, he fights to keep the bird upright. In the heat of battle, when the dust obscures the sun and the noise is deafening, the glint of the gold wings is the only thing that matters. It is the rallying point. Follow the eagle implies a surrender of fear to a higher symbol. It radiates a spiritual protection. The soldiers sleep near it. They pray to it. It is the physical manifestation of Rome's spirit, watchful, predatory, and soaring above the fray. Focus on the stillness of the metal bird amidst the turmoil, a golden anchor in the storm of war. When the war is won and the eagle returns home, the city explodes into the ultimate sensory overload, the triumph. This is not a mere parade, it is a religious rite of passage. You're standing in the forum, pressed shoulder to shoulder with the cheering crowd. The air is filled with a blizzard of flower petals, roses and violets thrown from the rooftops. The noise is a physical wall of sound, trumpets blaring, wheels rumbling, people screaming the name of the general. Smell the heavy smoke of incense burning on portable altars, mingling with the sweat of the horses. And then he appears, the triumphator. He rides in a high, circular chariot drawn by 4 white horses. But look closely at his face. It is painted completely red with vermilion pigment. In this moment, he is not a man. He is the living statue of Jupiter. He wears a purple toga embroidered with gold stars. He holds an ivory scepter. The adulation is terrifying in its intensity. It is a wave of energy that lifts him up, transforming a mortal into a deity for one single day. The colours are vibrant. The red face, the gold chariot, the white horses, the purple robe, a kaleidoscope of glory that sears itself into the memory of the city. But in the Roman mind, such glory is dangerous. It tempts the gods. And so, right behind the godlike general standing in the same chariot is a shadow. Visualize a slave, dressed in plain clothes, standing just behind the man of the hour. His job is invisible to the crowd, but essential to the soul of the conqueror. He holds a heavy golden crown above the general's head, but he leans in close, whispering into his ear. Listen to the whisper, cutting through the roar of the applause. Respis poste, hominem te esse memento. Look behind you. Remember you are only a man. It is the grounding wire for the lightning of hubris. This is the concept of memento mori in action. Amidst the flowers and the gold, there is the quiet, persistent voice of truth. It creates a profound contrast. The deafening noise of victory outside and the hushed reminder of mortality inside. It is a psychological safeguard, a way to remain sane when the world treats you like a god. Feel the weight of that whisper. It is a check on the ego, a reminder that the wheel of fortune turns, that the applause will fade, and that in the end we are all merely human, bound by the same laws of nature as the slave who holds the crown. The parade passes, the flowers wilt, and the shouting dies away, but the memory of the victory is frozen forever in stone. We stand now before the massive structure of a triumphal arch. It rises like a gateway to the sky, a freestanding monument of white pentelic marble. Visualize the Arch of Titus or Constantine. It is an architectural pause, a frame for the empty air through which the procession passed. Look up at the relief carvings on the inside of the archway. The figures are carved in deep relief, creating sharp shadows that move as the sun tracks across the sky. You can see the soldiers, the horses, the looted treasures of the temple, the menorah, the trumpets. They are caught in mid-step, immortalized in the stone. The arch is a machine for memory. To walk through it is to walk through the triumph again and again. It changes the space around it, forcing the traffic of the city to flow through its center. Run your hand over the cool, weathered marble. It feels solid, a permanent, we were here and we won. It dominates the skyline, not as a wall to keep people out, but as a door that is always open, inviting the citizen to pass through and share in the reflected glory of the state. From the monumental grandeur of the arch, our focus narrows down to the smallest, most vulnerable citizen, the Roman child. Around the neck of a young boy, resting against his tunic, hangs a small round locket made of gold or leather. This is the bulla. Visualize this protective amulet. It looks like a bubble or a pouch sealed shut. Inside there are tiny charms, perhaps a phallic symbol, a dried herb or a written spell. Things meant to ward off the malus oculus, the evil eye. In a world where life is fragile and spirits are everywhere, the bulla is a shield. The boy wears it every moment of his life, from the day he is named until the day he becomes a man. It is a heavy, comforting weight against the chest. It marks him as a freeborn son, a future citizen. Imagine the gold warming against the skin. It represents the fierce protectiveness of the Roman family. The father places it there, a circle of safety to guard the innocence of childhood against the envy of the world. It is a tender detail in a society of iron and stone, a small, secret pocket of magic worn over the heart, holding the hope that the child will grow strong enough to one day lay it aside and take up the toga of manhood. Just as the golden bulla protects the chest of the young boy, so too does a crescent moon of silver or gold rest gently against the throat of the Roman girl. This is the lunula. Visualize this delicate charm shaped like the waning moon, a sliver of luminous metal suspended on a thin chain. It is the symbol of Diana, the goddess of the hunt and the moon, the protector of the feminine spirit. While the boy's amulet is heavy and round like the sun, The girl's is light and curved, mimicking the celestial arc that governs the tides and the months. Imagine the cool touch of the silver against the skin, a constant gentle reminder of a connection to the night sky. It is worn from the moment of birth until the eve of marriage. It represents a phase of life that is pure and potential, a time of growing like the waxing moon. In the soft light of the nursery, the lunula glimmers, a tiny reflection of the goddess watching over the sleep of her daughters, guarding them until they are ready to step into the fullness of their own lives. The day comes when the lunula is laid aside, offered up on the family altar, and replaced by a veil of striking beauty. This is the flammium. Envision the colour of this wedding veil. It is not white, but the colour of a flame, a deep, vibrant saffron yellow that seems to glow from within. It is large enough to cover the bride from head to toe, wrapping her in a cocoon of warm light. To wear it is to be dressed in the sunrise. The fabric is fine and sheer, allowing the bride to see out while casting a golden haze over the world around her. It is held in place by a wreath of verbena and sweet marjoram, gathered by her own hands. Visualize the procession by torchlight, the bride walking through the streets wrapped in this cloud of fire-coloured silk. She looks like a living candle, a sacred flame moving from the hearth of her father to the hearth of her husband. The flammium is a shield of modesty and a beacon of joy, a vivid splash of warmth against the grey stone of the city, marking the transition from the cool moonlight of childhood to the fiery responsibility of the home. Once the veil is lifted and the new home is entered, the hands of the Roman woman take up the tool that defines her days, the spindle and distaff. Let your mind settle into the hypnotic rhythm of spinning wool. This is not merely a chore, it is the heartbeat of the Roman household, a meditative practice that connects the matron to the fates themselves. Visualize the raw wool, cloud-soft and lanolin-rich, wrapped around the distaff held in the left hand. The right hand plucks a tuft, twisting it, attaching it to the weighted spindle. Drop, spin, wind. The spindle twirls like a top, its weight pulling the fibres into a tight, strong thread. Watch the rotation. It is a perfect, dizzying circle. The hum of the spindle is a low, soothing drone. There is a profound satisfaction in the transformation of chaos into order, of fluff into line. It is a tactile journey, the fingers constantly feeling the thickness, smoothing the imperfections. In the atrium, surrounded by her maids, the mistress spins the wool that will clothe her family. It is a thread of love and duty, spun inch by inch, yard by yard, a continuous line that binds the family together against the cold. The spindle is often weighted with a whirl made of a substance that feels warm and electric to the touch. Amber. The Romans called it succinum, the sapstone, believing correctly that it was the fossilized juice of ancient pines. Follow the journey of this gem from the dark, storm-tossed shores of the Baltic Sea, down the long amber road to the markets of Rome. Hold a piece of it in your mind. It is not cold like a diamond, it is organic and warm. Rub it with your thumb, and it releases a faint piney scent, a memory of a forest that stood millions of years ago. It glows with the colours of honey, cognac and fire. Look closely into its depths. You might see a tiny insect, a gnat or a spider, trapped forever in a golden tomb, suspended in a moment of eternal stillness. Roman women loved to hold balls of amber in their hands during the summer, believing its coolness helped to lower a fever, or simply for the pleasure of its smooth, resinous texture. It is a piece of the sun that has fallen to earth, a solid drop of golden time that you can carry in your pocket. In the quiet corners of the villa, where the amber beads are stored, there sits a curious terracotta jar perforated with breathing holes. Inside sleeps a creature that embodies the very essence of rest, the dormouse. To the modern mind, a mouse is a pest, but to the Roman, the gliss is a delicacy and a pet. Visualize the glirarium, the special jar made for these sleepy animals. Inside it is dark and cosy. There are tiny shelves for food, acorns, chestnuts and walnuts, and a spiral track for the dormice to scuttle along. But mostly they sleep. The dormouse is the master of hibernation. It spends the winter curled into a perfect fur-covered ball, its breathing slowed to a barely perceptible rhythm. Imagine the profound peace of that jar. The creature is safe, warm, and fed, existing in a state of suspended animation. It is a living symbol of the restorative power of sleep. The Romans admired this ability to shut out the world and drift away. Let your mind curl up with the dormouse in the cool, dark safety of the terracotta, letting the noise of the outside world fade into the gentle silence of a long, deep winter nap. While the dormouse dreams in the dark, the Romans crave the shock of the cold to temper the heat of the Italian summer. High in the mountains, snow is being harvested to bring a shiver of ice to the city. Visualize the snow pits on the shadowed slopes of the Apennines. Workers pack the winter snow into deep, straw-lined caverns, insulating it against the coming spring. Then, in the heat of July, when the stones of Rome are baking, the snow is brought down. Imagine the mule trains moving by night, carrying blocks of ice wrapped in burlap and hay. They arrive at the thermopolia, the drink shops. Watch the barman chip a shard of ice into a cup of wine. The ice crackles as it hits the liquid. The glass mists over with condensation. To drink this calda, or rather, its cold counterpart, is a luxury of sensation. Feel the shock of the cold liquid travelling down your throat, cooling your core, a sudden, refreshing contrast to the heavy heat of the day. It is a mastery of the seasons, a way to taste the winter in the middle of summer, a fleeting, melting moment of crystalline clarity. The light that melts the snow falls most beautifully through the single, unblinking eye of the Pantheon. Stand now in the centre of the rotunda beneath the oculus. This is a space of perfect geometry. The dome above is a concrete hemisphere, and at its apex is a circular opening 30 feet wide open to the sky. There is no glass. It is a direct connection to the heavens. Visualize the column of light that pours through this opening. It is solid, almost tangible, cutting through the dim, cool air of the sanctuary. As the earth turns, the spotlight moves. It creeps across the coffered ceiling, slides down the porphyry walls, and sweeps across the checkerboard floor. It is a sundial of the gods. Watch the dust motes dancing in the beams, swirling in slow motion. And when it rains, imagine the drops falling through the roof, a cylinder of silver rain in the middle of the dry church. The floor is slightly curved to drain the water away. The sound of the rain hitting the marble echoes softly in the vast space. It is a place where the elements are invited in but contained, a majestic interplay of shadow and light, where one can stand indoors and still look straight up into the infinite blue of the day. From the grand architecture of the Pantheon, we move to a monument that celebrates the quiet power of growth and stillness, the Arapacis, the altar of peace. Walk around the exterior of this white marble enclosure. The lower panels are covered in the most intricate floral carvings in the history of art. But this is not a chaotic jungle. It is a vision of nature in perfect harmony. Acanthus leaves scroll in mathematical spirals. Vines stretch out with elegant symmetry. Look closer. Hidden among the leaves are tiny animals, a lizard basking on a stem, a frog hiding under a leaf, a bird feeding its chicks in a nest. It is a world of abundance and safety. The marble seems to breathe. The carving is so deep, so delicate, that the stone leaves look as if they would rustle if a breeze passed by. This is the peace that Augustus promised. A world where nature flourishes, where the lizard is safe on the leaf, where the vines are heavy with grapes. It is a meditation in stone, a frozen garden of white marble that invites the eye to wander through its tangled, peaceful beauty, finding rest in the details of a world at peace. In this peaceful world, there is also a place for the soothing sound of water and the coolness of the grotto. We find ourselves entering a nymphaeum. This is a shrine dedicated to the water nymphs, but often built as a pleasure fountain in a private garden. Visualize a cave-like structure. built of rough, porous pumice stone to look natural and wild. Moss and maidenhair ferns cling to the wet rocks. Water trickles down the walls, collecting in a clear glass-like pool at the bottom. The sound is a constant musical dripping. Plink, plash, plink. It is the most relaxing sound in the world. The air here is ion-charged and fresh. Statues of nymphs pour water from urns. The light is dappled, filtering through the leaves of overhanging trees. It is a retreat from the rigid lines of the city, a place to sit on a stone bench and stare into the water. The nymphaeum represents the wild, feminine, fluid soul of nature, tamed just enough to be enjoyed. It is a cool, damp sanctuary where the mind can liquefy, flowing away with the gentle current of the fountain. Finally, we step from the natural cave into the ultimate artificial wonder, a room that mimics the rotation of the heavens themselves. We are in the Domus Aurea, the golden house of Nero, standing in the octagonal room. The architecture here opens up like a flower. The room is 8-sided, soaring up to a central oculus, but the miracle is the ceiling. According to legend, there is a mechanism hidden behind the walls, powered by water slaves or gears. Look up. The ceiling is slowly, imperceptibly revolving. It moves in sync with the stars outside. As it turns, panels slide open. A gentle mist of perfume sprays down, saffron and rose scenting the air. Then flower petals begin to fall. They drift down from the ceiling like coloured snow, fluttering softly to the floor. It is a sensory fantasy. The light shifts, the room turns, the air smells of flowers. It is a space designed to disorient the senses in the most pleasurable way possible, to make you feel as though you are floating in the centre of a turning universe. Here, in this revolving chamber, reality dissolves into a dream of luxury and light, a slow, endless rotation that cradles you in the heart of the golden house. The gentle, perfumed mist of Nero's revolving ceiling slowly settles, leaving a lingering scent of saffron in the air. The faint grinding of the hidden gears that turn the room fades into a new sound, a resonant, sustained tone that seems to bubble up from the depths of the water itself. We are listening to the hydraulis, the water organ of antiquity. Visualize this instrument, a masterpiece of bronze pipes and mechanics standing tall in the corner of a great hall or an amphitheatre. It is the ancestor of the church organ, but its lungs are not bellows of leather, they are cisterns of water. Imagine the physics of it. Water is pumped into a bronze chamber, compressing the air, creating a steady, unyielding pressure. When the musician presses a key, the air escapes through a pipe with a clear, pure note. Hum. The sound is unique, powerful, aquatic, and incredibly continuous. It does not gasp for breath like a flute. It sings with the inexhaustible strength of the aqueduct. The notes can carry for miles, a wall of sound that can cut through the roar of a crowd or fill the silence of a palace. Watch the player's hands moving over the keys, the water bubbling in the glass viewing jar on the side, a visual display of the pressure that drives the music. It is a harmonious marriage of the two great Roman loves, engineering and spectacle, creating a melody that floats on a cushion of pressurized water, vibrant and alive. The powerful resonance of the water organ softens as we leave the grand palace and step into a smaller, more intimate architectural jewel, the Odeon. Unlike the vast open-air theatres where the wind steals the actors' voices, the Odeon is roofed. It is a wooden box of acoustics, designed for music and poetry. Step inside and feel the hush. The capacity is small, perhaps only 1,000 people. The roof is made of cedar wood, which scents the air with a rich balsamic fragrance. Because it is enclosed, the sound here is warm and golden. Every whisper is caught and amplified by the curvature of the seats. Visualize a poet standing on the stage, reciting verses of Virgil. He does not need to shout. The timbre of his voice wraps around you like a blanket. The sunlight filters in through clerestory windows, creating shafts of dusty light that illuminate the dust motes. It is a place of refined listening, of closing your eyes and letting the meter of the hexameter wash over you. The wooden roof acts like the body of a violin, vibrating sympathetically with the performance, holding the audience in a warm, resonant embrace of culture and calm. In this quiet, cedar-scented space, a single musician steps forward, holding the most iconic instrument of the Roman world, the tibia. It is not a simple flute. It is a double pipe, two long tubes of boxwood or ivory diverging from a single mouthpiece, looking like an inverted letter V. The musician wears a forbea, a leather strap around his cheeks to help him maintain the immense pressure required to play. Watch as he begins. He uses circular breathing, inhaling through his nose while pushing air out through his mouth, creating a sound that never stops. It is a drone, a hypnotic, reedy buzz that underpins the melody, similar to bagpipes but more primal. One pipe plays the drone, the other weaves the melody. This is the sound of sacrifice, the sound that drowns out the noise of the street during a ritual so the priest is not distracted. It is a sound meant to induce a trance. The vibration is earthy and guttural. Focus on the duality of the pipes, the low, steady hum of the left hand grounding you, while the high, dancing notes of the right hand lift your spirit. It is a musical weaving, a sonic tapestry that wraps the listener in a continuous loop of breath and wood. The drone of the pipes fades, and the stage is taken by a figure who makes no sound at all yet speaks volumes. This is the pantomimus, the silent dancer. In a multilingual empire where not everyone speaks Latin, the pantomime is the universal artist. He wears a mask with a closed mouth, a beautiful, serene visage of silk and linen. He wears a long, flowing tunic of silk that ripples like water with every movement. Watch him. He's telling the story of Mars and Venus, but he uses only his body. His hands are incredibly expressive, his fingers fluttering like birds, his posture shifting from the rigid pride of the god of war to the fluid grace of the goddess of love. It is a fluid, dreamlike performance. The audience is spellbound, decoding the language of the gesture. The dancer glides across the stage, defying gravity, his cloak swirling around him in perfect arcs. It is a visual meditation. Without words, the mind is free to focus purely on the motion, on the beauty of the human form telling an ancient story. It is a dance of archetypes, a flowing river of silk and silence that speaks directly to the subconscious. Leaving the theatre behind, we seek a silence that is older and deeper than any performance. We walk out of the city gates, past the fields, until the sunlight dims and the air grows cool. We are entering a lucus, a sacred grove. This is not just a forest, it is a living temple. The trees here, ancient oaks, towering pines, dark cypress, have never felt the bite of an axe. They are inviolable. To cut a branch here is a crime against the gods. The canopy is dense, filtering the sun into a dappled pattern of green and gold on the soft floor of moss and pine needles. The silence is profound, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the call of a wood pigeon. The air smells of damp earth, fungi, and old bark. In the centre of the grove, there might be a simple stone altar, weathered and covered in lichen, or a spring bubbling up from the roots of a great tree. This is where the Romans believed the numen, the spirit of the place, resided. It is a sanctuary of shadow. Walking here, you feel a sense of heavy, watchful peace. The trees are the pillars of this cathedral, their branches the vaulted ceiling. It is a place to stop, to breathe in the oxygen-rich air, and to feel the slow, patient pulse of the vegetable world that surrounds and dwarfs the human lifespan. Deep within the hills, nestled in the crater of an extinct volcano, lies the most sacred and mysterious of these natural sanctuaries, Lake Nemi, the mirror of Diana. Visualize the lake from above. It is a perfect deep blue circle, surrounded on all sides by steep wooded cliffs. The water is incredibly still, protected from the wind by the crater walls. It reflects the sky and the clouds with flawless clarity, creating the illusion of a portal to another world. On the northern shore stands the temple of Diana Nemorensis. This is a place of refuge for the outcast and the weary. The air here is humid and still, charged with a strange magical energy. Pilgrims come carrying torches in the night, their reflections shimmering in the dark water like a second Milky Way. It is a place of female power, of the moon goddess who watches over the wild things. Imagine sitting on the pebbled shore, listening to the water lap gently against the stones. The isolation is complete. You are held in the cup of the earth, sheltered by the volcano's rim, staring into the blue depths of a lake that has kept its secret since the dawn of time. Floating silently on the surface of this glass-like lake are two vessels that defy explanation. These are the Nemi ships, the floating palaces of the Emperor Caligula. But do not think of them as ships meant to sail. Think of them as islands meant to dream. They are gigantic, wide and flat, their decks paved not with wood, but with mosaics of coloured marble and glass. Visualize a villa floating on the water. There are baths with hot running water, fed by lead pipes trailing into the lake. There are gardens with fruit trees growing in copper pots. There are dining rooms draped in purple silk. The hull is sheathed in lead to protect it from the water, held in place by bronze nails. It is the ultimate expression of the desire to escape the land. Imagine lying on a couch on the deck of this floating palace, feeling the gentle, imperceptible sway of the massive hull. You're suspended between the water and the sky, surrounded by luxury, drifting in the centre of the volcano's eye. It is a surreal stillness, a motionless voyage in a ship built for pleasure and silence, anchored in the deep blue heart of the sacred wood. We leave the floating palace and travel to the solid ground of another imperial retreat, one that seeks to collect the entire world into a single valley. This is Hadrian's villa at Tivoli, and we are standing at the edge of the canopus. This is a long rectangular reflecting pool, designed to evoke the canal that linked Alexandria to the Nile. But here, it is a dreamscape of memory. The water is a dark, silky green, lined by a colonnade of white marble statues. But these are not typical Roman columns. They are caryatids, statues of women draping their robes, supporting the architrave on their heads. They gaze eternally at their own reflections in the water. At the far end of the pool stands the Serapeum, a massive dining grotto shaped like a pumpkin shell, creating a deep, cool cave of shadow. The atmosphere is one of melancholic beauty. It is an emperor's scrapbook in stone and water. The air is still, usually heavy with the scent of water lilies. Imagine walking slowly along the edge of the pool, your footsteps echoing softly against the marble. The repetition of the columns, the perfect symmetry of the reflection, the silent gaze of the stone women. It all creates a hypnotic rhythm, a sense of walking through a physical memory of a distant, exotic land. Within this sprawling villa complex, there is a secret within a secret, a retreat so private that it requires a bridge to enter. This is the Maritime Theatre. Do not let the name fool you. There are no actors here. It is a circular island of masonry, surrounded by a deep ring-shaped moat, which is in turn surrounded by a circular portico. It is a wheel within a wheel. To reach the island, you must cross a small wooden swing bridge. Once you're across, the bridge is pulled in, and you're completely cut off from the world. The island is a miniature home, a tiny bath, a tiny library, a tiny bedroom, and a fountain in the centre. It is the ultimate architectural expression of introversion. Visualise the Emperor Hadrian retreating here to think, pulling up the drawbridge to separate himself from the empire he ruled. The water of the moat acts as a sound barrier, deadening the noise of the outside. The geometry is soothing, circle upon circle, curve upon curve. There are no sharp corners here. It is a womb of brick and marble, a place to be entirely alone with your thoughts, floating on a stone island in a ring of quiet water. To escape the heat of the Tivoli sun, we descend beneath the ground, not into a dark cave, but into a cool, ventilated corridor known as a cryptoporticus. These are semi-subterranean covered walkways, built into the hillsides to connect the different wings of the villa. The temperature here drops instantly, a refreshing natural air conditioning. The walls are plastered white to reflect the dim light coming from the slanted windows high up near the vaulted ceiling. The light is soft, diffuse, and grey, casting no harsh shadows. The floor is paved with herringbone brick, opus spiccatum, which offers a pleasing texture underfoot. The acoustics are strange. Your footsteps are hushed, absorbed by the length of the tunnel. It is a liminal space, a place of transit that becomes a destination in itself. It feels secretive and safe, like a burrow. You can walk for miles without ever stepping into the sun, moving through the cool arteries of the estate. It creates a sense of detachment, of moving beneath the surface of things, wrapped in the cool, silent breath of the earth. Emerging from the cool tunnel, we find ourselves in a space of transformation and industry, but one with its own rhythmic, watery, hypnotic quality. We are in a Phalonica, a Roman laundry. It might seem mundane, but visualize the process. In the courtyard, there are a series of large terracotta tubs filled with water and cleaning agents, often fermented urine, which, while pungent, was the ammonia of the ancient world. But focus on the motion. The workers, the fullones, stand in these tubs, treading the cloth with their feet. It is a slow, rhythmic dance. Step, squelch, step, squelch. They are like wine treaders, but for wool. They massage the togas, the tunics, the blankets, working out the grease and the dirt. The sound is a steady splashing beat. Afterward, the cloth is rinsed in clear rushing water and hung over wicker frames to be whitened with sulphur smoke. The final step is the pressing, where the cloth is placed in a screw press to create crisp, sharp pleats. The result is the blinding white toga candida of the politician. Despite the hard work, there is a water-based rhythm to the place, a continuous cycle of washing, rinsing and drying that keeps the city clothed in purity. The splashing water and the rhythmic treading create a backdrop of productive cleansing sound. From the cleaning of clothes, we move to the colouring of them, specifically to a colour that is not a dye, but a mineral. We are looking at the walls of a villa painted in cinnabar. This is the most expensive pigment in Rome, a mercury sulfide mined in Spain. It produces a red so deep, so vibrant and so intense that it seems to vibrate. It is the colour of Pompeian walls. Visualize a room entirely saturated in this hue. It is not an angry red. It is a warm, enveloping terracotta crimson that makes the room feel like the inside of a heart. To protect this precious colour from blackening in the sun, the wall is polished with punic wax, a process called gnosis. Imagine the friction of the polishing cloth, the smell of the heated wax, the way the wall begins to shine like glass. The light of the oil lamps reflects off the red surface, creating a warm, golden red glow that softens everyone's features. It is a colour of wealth and warmth, a visual embrace that makes the room feel secure, enclosing you in a vibrant, protective shell of deep, earthen red. From the enveloping warmth of the cinnabar walls, cast your gaze upward, away from the earth-toned embrace of the room to the ceiling that mimics the infinite depth of the heavens. Here, the plaster is saturated with a colour that defined the ancient Mediterranean night, ceruleum, or Egyptian blue. This is not a colour found easily in nature. It is a triumph of early chemistry, the first synthetic pigment known to man. Visualize the alchemical process required to birth this shade. Sand, copper filings, and natron salts are ground together and baked in a kiln until they fuse into a glowing, crystalline blue frit. It is the colour of the twilight sky just before the stars appear, a deep, resonant azure that seems to recede from the eye, creating the illusion of vast open space even within a small chamber. In the dim light of the oil lamps, the blue pigment does not just sit flat on the plaster, it luminesces slightly, catching the flicker of the flame. It was often used to paint the ceilings of tombs and bedrooms, turning the roof into a star-studded canopy. Staring up at it, The heavy stone of the building seems to dissolve, leaving you exposed to a calm, eternal sky that hangs silently over your sleep, a pigment of pure atmosphere that cools the mind and invites the vastness of the cosmos into the domestic sphere. Lower your eyes from the cool expanse of the blue ceiling to the ground beneath your feet. You're not standing on the small pixelated dots of a mosaic, but on the large, luxurious slabs of opus sectile. This is cut work, a technique far more precious and rare than the common mosaic. Instead of thousands of tiny cubes, the floor is composed of large, perfectly shaped geometric plates of the Empire's most expensive stones. Visualize the puzzle. A slab of green serpentine from Sparta fits seamlessly against a disc of red porphyry from Egypt, which is framed by a triangle of yellow Numidian marble. It is a geological map of conquest arranged in a geometric dance. The stone is polished to a mirror finish. Walk across it in your mind. It feels cool, smooth, and seamless, like walking on a sheet of glass. The joints are so tight that you cannot feel the transition from one colour to the next. The patterns create optical illusions, cubes that appear to pop out of the floor, stars that seem to spin. It is a floor that demands attention, a surface of cold, hard luxury that grounds the room in the weight and permanence of the mountains from which these stones were hewn. Resting on this polished floor of multicoloured stone stands a table that is worth more than the entire house. It is a round, low table made of the most coveted material in the Roman world, citrus wood. Do not imagine the wood of a lemon or orange tree. This is the burl of the sandarac tree, the thine wood, which grows only in the Atlas Mountains of North Africa. To the Roman eye, this wood was hypnotic. It was not prized for its height, but for the complex swirling patterns of its grain, known as tiger's eye or peacock's tail. Visualize the surface of the table. It is a deep honey gold colour, polished with oil until it glows with an inner light. The grain swirls in maddeningly beautiful eddies and knots, looking like a pool of liquid amber that has been frozen in time. Men of the Senate were known to spend fortunes on a single tabletop, a mania that the women of Rome mocked even as they collected their pearls. Run your hand over the wood. It is warm, dense, and feels alive. It smells faintly of resin and cedar. It is a piece of living art, a chaotic, organic masterpiece of nature that has been tamed, polished, and set on ivory legs to hold the wine cups of the master. On the golden surface of the citrus table sits a vessel that seems to be made of solidified water. This is a cup carved from pure rock crystal. The Romans believed that rock crystal, crystallus, was a form of ice that had frozen so hard over thousands of years that it could never melt. Pick up the cup in your imagination. It is heavy, much heavier than glass, and it possesses a chilling, supernatural coldness. Even in the heat of summer, the stone retains a frigid temperature. When you pour water or wine into it, the liquid seems to float in the air unsupported. The clarity is absolute, flawless, and diamond hard. There are no bubbles, no waves, only pure, transparent structure. Drinking from rock crystal was a sensory experience. The Romans believed it made the water taste colder, purer, and sweeter. It is the ultimate luxury of touch. To hold a piece of the high mountains, a shard of eternal winter, in your warm hand, condensation forming on the outside as the cold stone kisses your lips. Beside the clear, icy perfection of the rock crystal sits another cup, this one a riot of colour and complexity. This is marin glass, the ancient ancestor of millefiori. Visualize the craftsmanship required to create this object. Hundreds of long, thin glass rods, some blue, some yellow, some white, some red, are fused together into a single thick cane. When this cane is sliced, like a roll of sushi, each slice reveals a perfect tiny flower or geometric star. These slices are then arranged in a mould and heated until they melt together into a single bowl. The result is a vessel made of flowers. Hold it up to the light. It is a kaleidoscope of translucent colour. It looks like a meadow of wildflowers caught in a moment of glass transformation. The surface is smooth, but your eye can travel deep into the pattern, tracing the individual filaments of glass. It is fragile, precious, and impossibly intricate. To drink from it is to drink from a garden. It represents the playful side of Roman luxury, the desire to manipulate the very sand of the earth into a substance that mimics the bloom of spring, preserved forever in the kiln's heat. Resting on a linen cloth next to the glass bowls is a small silver instrument that defines the etiquette of the Roman dinner, the cochlear. This is the Roman spoon, but look closely at its shape. It has a small round bowl, perfect for scooping up sauces or eating shellfish. But the handle is not flat. It is thin, tapered, and ends in a sharp point. This point is a tool. It is used to pierce the shell of a snail or the shell of a boiled egg. Visualize the dining experience. You're reclining on a couch, holding the cochlear delicately in your fingers. You use the pointed end to extract a snail from its shell, a specialized motion for a civilized eater. There was a superstition too. After eating a boiled egg, a Roman would always use the point of the spoon to break the empty shell, to prevent evil spirits from hiding inside it. The silver is polished and bright, reflecting the lamplight. It feels balanced and precise, a utensil designed for a culture that turned dining into an art form, where every motion of the hand was dictated by custom and grace. The meal concludes, and the guest prepares to leave, but not before engaging in a ritual involving the mappa, the Roman napkin. This is not a disposable paper square. It is a large, sturdy piece of white linen, often embroidered with a purple border, which the guest brings with them to the dinner party. It is a personal item, a part of the outfit. Visualize the texture of the linen, cool, crisp, and woven from the flax of Egypt. During the meal, it protects the toga from stains, but as the evening ends, the mappa serves a second, delightful purpose. It is the original doggy bag. It is polite and expected for the guest to wrap up the leftovers, the savoury pork cakes, the dried figs, the little apples, inside their napkin to take home. Watch the guest folding the corners of the cloth securing the bundle. It is a gesture of appreciation to the host, a signal that the food was so good it must be enjoyed again tomorrow. The mappa represents the connection between the feast and the home, a linen vessel that carries the bounty of the banquet out into the night. Clutching the linen bundle, we move toward the exit, pausing at the most spiritually charged line in the house, the limen, or threshold. To the Roman mind, a doorway is not just a gap in the wall, it is a sacred boundary between the safety of the inside and the chaos of the outside. It is guarded by the god Janus. Look down at the threshold stone. It is a strip of white marble raised slightly above the floor. It is worn smooth by generations of feet. But watch how you cross it. You must never ever step on the threshold, you must step over it, and you must lead with your right foot. Pede dextro, right foot first. To lead with the left is sinister, a bad omen. Visualize the bride being lifted over this threshold by her husband, her saffron veil trailing behind her to ensure she doesn't stumble and bring bad luck to her new home. The doorposts themselves are anointed with wolf's fat or oil to keep the hinges silent and the spirits at bay. Pause here for a moment. Feel the gravity of the line. Inside is the family, the hearth, the ancestors. Outside is the street, the world, the night. The threshold is the membrane that separates the two, a magical seal that must be crossed with intention and respect. Just beyond the threshold, set into the floor of the vestibule, lies a guardian that never sleeps, captured forever in black and white stone. This is the cave canem mosaic. Visualize the image. A large black dog chained to a door, its teeth bared, its ears pricked, rendered in stark monochromatic tiles. Below it, the Latin words warn, cave canem, beware of the dog. It is both a joke and a threat. Even if there is no real dog barking in the hallway, the image does the work. It startles the visitor. It creates a psychological barrier. The black tiles absorb the light, making the dog seem to lunge from the floor. The white background glows in the moonlight. It is a symbol of the Roman obsession with security and territory. The dog is the first line of defense, the loyal creature that watches the door while the master sleeps. Even in art, the dog is vigilant. Step around the mosaic carefully, acknowledging the silent growl of the stones, respecting the boundary of the private world you're leaving behind. Finally, the door must be secured. We end this sequence with the heavy mechanical satisfaction of the Roman key, the clavis. Visualize the key in your hand. It is not a small, flimsy sliver of brass. It is a substantial object of bronze or iron, often shaped like a ring so it can be worn on the finger, a ring key. This meant the master always had access to his valuables. The mechanism it operates is the tumbler lock. Insert the key into the door. It has a complex pattern of teeth and holes. As you push it in, you feel the pins inside the lock being lifted, aligning perfectly with the holes in the key. Click, clunk. The bolt slides home. It is a sound of finality. The Romans were the first to master this kind of security, turning the lock into a marvel of engineering. The weight of the key on the finger is a constant reminder of ownership and authority. With the turning of the bronze, the house is sealed. The world is locked out. The night is claimed for rest. The heavy wood of the door stands firm, held in place by the genius of the metal bolt, creating a sanctuary of silence that will hold until the dawn. We have walked the stones of the Forum, touched the cold marble of the temples, and whispered in the ears of emperors. We have seen the empire in its grandeur and its intimacy. But there remains one final truth, a secret that was guarded more jealously than the gold in the treasury or the fire of the Vestals. This is the mystery of the secret name of Rome. The Romans believed that every city had a secret, sacred name, a sonic key that bound its protecting god to the soil. If an enemy learned this name, they could perform a ritual called evocatio, calling the god out of the city and leaving it defenseless. And so, the true name of Rome was forbidden to be spoken. It was known only to the highest pontiffs, whispered once a year in the deepest sanctuary, and then swallowed back into silence. Some say the name was Amor, the mirror image of Roma, signifying that at the heart of power lay the hidden softness of love. Others say it was a word so ancient it sounded like the wind in the trees before the first stone was laid. Meditate on this silence. In a civilization obsessed with rhetoric, with laws carved in bronze, with speeches and shouts and trumpets, the ultimate protection was a word that was never heard. It suggests that the core of your own being, the truest part of who you are, is also a secret sanctuary. It is a place that cannot be mapped, named, or conquered. It is a quiet inner fortress that belongs only to you. As the empire fades into the twilight, this secret name hangs in the air, a vibration of pure potential, a reminder that some things are too sacred for sound, existing only in the profound, protective silence of the soul. And now, the silence of that secret name spreads out to cover the 7 hills like a soft, heavy blanket of mist. The journey is complete. The golden milestones, the marble columns, and the cedar roofs are dissolving gently into the dark. The torches of the vigils are flickering out one by one until the city is nothing more than a memory of light glowing faintly in the distance of your mind. You're drifting away from the banks of the Tiber, floating back on the stream of time. The noise of the chariots has ceased. The roar of the crowd has turned into the rhythmic sound of your own breathing, in and out. The ancient world is not vanishing. It is simply resting, waiting for you to return in your dreams. Feel the solid ground of the present moment rising to meet you. The bed beneath you is your temple, your sanctuary, your fortress of peace. Let your body become heavy as the travertine stones, sinking deep into the mattress. Your legs are heavy, your arms are heavy. Your eyes are sealed shut like the doors of the Temple of Janus in times of absolute peace. There is no more history to witness, no more roads to travel. There is only the here and the now and the velvet darkness that wraps around you. The river of time slows down, becoming a still, glass-like pool. The stars of the ancient sky are watching over you, the same stars that watched over the sleeping legions and the dreaming poets. You're safe. You're protected by the silence. You're held in the arms of eternity. Let go of the thoughts, let go of the images, and drift into the deep, cool shadow of the night. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.